Welcome to another episode of the Sipping and Tripping podcast, where we connect with amazing people. Today's topic is abortions, unfit parents, and should the death penalty be legalized? I am your host, Desmond Black, and the person that's sipping and tripping with me today has a bachelor's degree in psychology. She is a general contractor and owns her own construction company with her husband. She has written 4 books and is the mother of 8 children. She is none other than Miss Katrina Richie. How are you doing today, and how was your week so far?
Well, I'm doing okay. My week has not been all that great, but that's okay. It can change.
That's true. We still got a couple more days.
Yeah.
So on this platform, I like to conversate, educate, and entertain. We'll start off with a few preliminary questions. So without further ado, where were you born and where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Redding, California, so Northern California, but I was
Okay.
adopted as an infant. And so I was raised in Santa Barbara, California. So literally within 24 hours, actually, yesterday was my birthday. So today, 38 years ago, I was taken by my adoptive parents from my birth mom in Redding, California. And we started our trek down 8 hours south to Santa Barbara, where I was raised.
Okay, well, happy belated.
Thank you.
I hope everything went well for you. Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have five little brothers and two little sisters.
Ooh, 7, and then you got 8.
I do.
It's just keep growing.
Yeah, that's right.
um, so what do you do for a living?
I'm a general contractor, so I design and build barndominium homes. Do you know what that are? What those are? Barndominiums.
What is it? No, what is it?
So it's like a barn style house. It's a metal building turned into a house. So we
Okay,
built those down here in the Texas Hill Country.
okay. I believe you have pictures on your page too.
I do.
I seen a couple of pictures. Yeah, I seen a whole bunch of like construction and the building and stuff. So I said, okay, doing
Yeah.
big things. So how's that life?
I'll be really honest with you. It's interesting because a lot of the people that we work with have never built a home
Mm,
before and they really don't know what to expect. And
right,
dealing with the general public, especially when it comes to large sums of money, can be
right,
very difficult. You can get people that get a little in their feelings at the end, especially if they go over on their budget. And I think it's your fault when it's them that picked the things that go in their house.
right,
So
right,
it can be a little disheartening when you have somebody who gets upset with you, but other than that, I mean, I like what I do. I love the design part of it. I'm a very right-brained person, so I'm all about the design part of it.
right.
It's just, sometimes dealing with people is not as fun as it could be.
Right, right. And hey, that's interesting. If I could go back, that's something I would do, like pick up trades in my life and definitely do like plumbing, electrician, and contracting because the HGTV they have those shows where they be building the houses, and the one has the wife where she does design and she's more creative, and it's very interesting. So I get lost in that show. So that's very good. Are you religious? Can you hear me?
You are frozen, and I did not hear what you just said. Sorry.
Oh, I said, are you religious?
I'm not. No.
Okay. Spiritual?
I was raised Christian though.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that's great. I think it seems like religion is one of those things that like people are shying away from because like this whole year I've been asking on the podcast if people are religious and I haven't had one person say yes.
Wow, really? That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, so like season 2, I'm at let's see, I think this is episode 17, I think on season 2. And yeah, not one person said they was religious. It's very interesting.
Wow.
Um so apart from your business, what do you do in your spare time?
What spare time? What is that? I don't know what
I
spare
was about
time
to,
is.
it's funny. I was about to say, it might be hard to find spare time because you got 8 kids. So
I do, but I only have five at home now. So like my kids, I have kids in college. I have older kids too. So my youngest is 2. My oldest is about to turn 20. So I only have five left at home, which only five sounds kind of crazy, but to me, five is a light load.
right, right, right,
So
right.
my three oldest that are at home are self sufficient and take care of themselves. So I really don't have a whole lot that they require. But my two younger ones keep me very busy, that's for sure. But spare time, honestly, I am I love chickens. I have like 200 chickens, so I like my chickens. And I like to cook. I do a lot of cooking.
I love cooking. I love cooking. Now, and Chef Dennis happened to be my brother, so he's another one. So we three cooks on the podcast. But
Nice.
yeah, you mentioned you got the chickens. So I got 5 dogs. So
I have
it's,
four dogs.
three. You said four
I,
or three?
I have four.
Four. Yeah.
And two cats.
And two cats. Oh my goodness, you got a lot going on.
Always. Yeah.
Um. So yeah. So I mentioned that you was a book author, right? So tell
Mhm.
the viewers about your creative process in writing the books and what the books are about.
So I wrote and published 3 books in 90 days, like a complete psychopath, um,
Dang.
while I was teaching full time. While the kids were doing their silent reading in the afternoons is when I was writing my books. And that was back in 2019. Yeah,
Mm,
2019. So I wrote and published between about February and April of, maybe it was January, end of January and April of 2019. I wrote and published 3 books. Prior to that, I had written like a book on credit repair, but I don't really count that one because that was just kind of like, hey, like I figured out how to fix my own credit. Let me help you do the same thing. I built a YouTube channel way back in 2011 that did really well. And I had, 20 million views in a matter of like a year or something like that. So one of the main topics I talked about, one was weight loss because I lost 95 pounds in 8 months way back then. And the other one was credit repair. So I wrote that kind of little ebook. It's like less than 100 pages way back then. So we really don't count that one, but it's still out there. So
right.
I'll say it's there. And then these other 3 I wrote in a 90-day period back in 2019. I need to go ahead and do a new one because they're kind of outdated at this point.
Right.
But I always wanted to write. I always wanted to write a book. I was an English teacher for a half of a second. And I love expressive writing. And I had a counselor actually tell me at one point that when you write something, when like you physically are typing it or your handwriting is better, when you write something, it triggers a different part of your brain and your emotions. And boy, was that true. Like stuff that I can talk about with no
Right.
problem at all whatsoever. The second I go to write it, I lose it. So it was a very emotional experience. It was a very difficult experience. I had some things that came out that I learned about myself during the process that I wouldn't have expected to have learned or have happened like during that entire thing. And um, I actually have done a couple courses for people teaching them how to write their own books just for the healing alone, because I feel like that was
Right.
like so beneficial. And being able to organize your thoughts and like go back and reread what you were thinking in that moment is like so helpful. So my books are published on Amazon. It did not take me long at all. They're all about 200 pages. And I figured out a really easy system to write books. So that's why it doesn't take me very long to do it. And that's without using, Chat GPT or anything like that. Like that was all my original content that I
Like
wrote
that.
about my own personal stories. But I have one book that's on, it's called Happy Looks Good on You, Babe, How to Stand Up After Life Knocks You Down. So the reason that I wrote this book is because I had a I won't call it like a traumatic childhood because I don't think that it would even qualify as being traumatic really.
Right.
But I had a very interesting childhood. And that affected a lot of my decisions, especially relationship decisions, like later on down the line in my life. I
Right.
was adopted straight out of the hospital when I was an infant. And then when I was 14 years old, my biological mom showed up at my high school completely unannounced without my parents' permission, came on my high school campus, lied to the school, told them that she had daughters she was looking to place in a school and she wanted to see the campus, and then had her friends approach me and sat me down and told me all of my history, all my story without my parents knowing. And that blew up. That was interesting. 2 years later, I got caught sneaking out trying to go see her because my parents didn't want me to really have a relationship with her at that point. They were trying to monitor it. I was allowed to talk to them for 15 minutes or talk to her for 15 minutes every Sunday with my dad listening in on the phone. And
Mm.
I was sneaking around talking to her, calling her, and I got caught. And when that happened, my parents tried to put a restraining order on her. They took her to court to try to put a restraining order on her. And I found out about it. And I hired my own attorney at 16 years old, and my birth mother got custody of me, and then I was emancipated.
Hmm.
So I moved in with my birth mom. That lasted about 9 months. And I met a boy. And I saw that boy as my meal ticket out of the situation with two sets of parents fighting over me. And I got married at 17
Hmm.
for the first time. So then I was a divorced single mom at 18. And then I got remarried 17 days after that divorce was final, and had my second child by the time I was 19. So by the time I was 19, I had two children and I had already been married twice. So,
Amazing.
that's fun. Um, and so that first book is really about that story, and it's also about like, hey, so like probably shouldn't make the same mistakes that I made, because I made my life a
Right.
lot more difficult than it needed to be, and I put my
Right.
kids through a lot of stuff that they didn't need to go through as a result of my childhood stuff that I had, and abandonment, rejection issues, and all those types of things. And then my second book was about adoption, like just it's for the person that has an adoptee in their life, because there's so much more to adoption than people realize. Everybody wants to live off of this narrative of adoption is beautiful.
Right.
And I tell the truth that it's not, because even when you are celebrating somebody adopting a child because they're so excited because now they get to be parents, that child just lost an entire family. So
Hmm.
I aim to kind of open up the narrative on adoption, and I show the dark sides of adoption. Even though I had really, really good parents who were really good, Christian people and all the things. Parents make mistakes, and especially in newfound territory. And I don't think enough people know how to handle that type of a situation. So, from the adoptee's perspective, how to not screw up your adopted child is basically what that book is about. And then my other one was on weight loss. And treating weight loss like any other addiction, because it's a food addiction. I'm an absolute foodie through and through.
Right.
Um, I lost 95 pounds in 8 months back in 2011, 2012. And I've kept it off since then. So it's been, 13 years really of being a normal, healthy weight and not morbidly obese.
Right.
So that's what those are about.
Right. So that's a powerful story, man. Now Now, I often talk about like mental health, right? So the whole thing with your adoptive parents and stuff, and and not be able to see your mom. So how much of that like played a factor on your mental health?
Um, how censored do you want me to be?
How what?
How censored do you want me to be?
Oh, it doesn't matter. Just hey, we speak freely over here.
Okay. Well, I'll be really honest with you. The whole reason that my mom showed up in my high school was because I was attempting to commit suicide. I had the police that showed up at my house at 1 o'clock in the morning because I told my friend I was going to kill myself.
Mm,
And she found out about it because my parents had lied to me my entire life, told me they didn't know really anything about my birth mom. And it turned out that they were in contact with her my entire life. And so they were
wow.
giving her updates, and she learned that I was in a really bad state. I was sneaking out starting at the age of 12. And then at age 13, I was sneaking out every single night. I had a 17-year-old boyfriend. I was doing hard drugs. I was stealing. I was like everything bad that you don't want your child doing. Like, I was definitely the kid that your mom warned you about. That was me
Right.
for sure. I was rebelling as hard as I could. And where that came from was when I was 5 years old, I found out I was adopted from the neighbor kid. He said, "You don't look anything like your mom's, or you don't look anything like your parents. Your mom didn't want you. She put you in an orphanage." That's
Mm,
how I found out I was adopted. I went home. I asked my adopted mom, "Am I adopted?" And she looked like a deer in the headlights. Like, how did you hear this word? Right. And
right.
sat me down, and my dad, gave me, "Yes, you're adopted. That doesn't mean we don't love you," like the normal, whatever. And in all reality, like 5 was too old. I should have already known, because situations like that happen. And that is something that will always replay in my head that I can never forget. Right.
Right.
So then when I was 8 years old, I was in a grocery store and with my parents, and they have a natural son together who looks just like my adopted mom, curly blonde hair, big blue eyes. And I'm not that, obviously. I'm a quarter Nicaraguan, so I'm dark. And my brother was sitting in the cart. He was a toddler at the time. And this old lady walks up and she's looking at him and she's like, "Oh my God, he's so cute." And she's just admiring how cute he was. And she says, "Oh, he looks just like you," looking at my adopted mom. And that's like very obvious. He does look just like her. And then she
Right.
like looks down at me, and I'm just like waiting for her to, say something nice to me. And she looks down at me. She goes, "Where did you come from? You don't look anything like your parents." And as
Wow.
soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, damn, you were right. I don't, like I don't look like these people. And I remember that being like the first time where I felt like I don't fit in here. Like
Mm.
who do I look like? Right. And what's wild is that it's incredibly common for adoptees to look for their birth mothers in grocery stores and in malls. And this happened in a grocery store. So that's why it
Right.
was kind of odd that that was the place that this happened. But I remember on the way home that day, just kind of like sitting there quiet and thinking to myself, like, I wonder if I look like her. Like, I wonder who I
Mm.
look like, and all these things. And then I started asking questions and I was shut down. It was like
Mm.
taboo subject. We don't talk about this. Don't ask, kind of a thing. And I'm just like, okay. The most information I ever got was that she was young, and my adopted dad gave me her first name, and that was the
Right.
only information I ever got. And when I was 12 years old, that was when we started being able to access the internet in schools. Like, you remember that? I remember when we had computer labs and all the fun stuff,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
right? And
Now
so
they
we
now
went.
they got Chromebooks.
I know. And so we had that computer lab that day. And I remember going in, sitting down, didn't really know how to use a computer. And they were like, okay, we're going to be working on research papers. I'm like, cool. So what do we do? Like, oh, you're going to Google something. I'm like, what's a Google? Right? Like, what's a Google? And
Right.
they're like, you can ask Google anything and it can tell you the answers. Well, the very first thing in my head was, how do you find your birth mom? Okay. So
Oh
I'm like
wow.
on
Wow.
there looking. Well, the girl that was sitting next to me had been a friend of mine since I was a toddler, and her parents and my parents went way back. So she goes home and tells her parents what I was looking at on Google.
Mm.
And 4:30 in the afternoon that day, there's a knock on the door, and it was her and her mom. And her mom sits me and my mom down at our dining room table and says, Kristina has a lot of questions, and I think it's time that you start answering them. Well, that didn't happen. My adopted mom looks at me and she just basically says, well, I don't know if she has a new family. I don't know if she's married. What if they don't know about you? You wouldn't want to disrupt her life now, would you?
Right.
And when she said that, I was like, no, I don't want to be a burden on anybody. Never mind. Right. And all my curiosity, I just shut it all down, shoved it. And I was like, I'm
Mm.
not asking anything else. And it was really at that moment that I said, F, I'm not doing anything for anybody. Like I don't care. I don't care. And
Right.
I became such a bad kid. I mean, I was so self-destructive. It was so bad.
Mm.
And so for the next 2 years, like my parents tried moving me schools, and like they tried to put that boy in jail, the boyfriend that I had that was way older than me. And like, it
Right.
was a lot. And they did catch me sneaking out one night, which was really bad. And they were threatening to send me to an all girls boarding school in Jamaica with a one-way ticket and like all these.
Jamaica.
Yeah, yeah, just wherever farthest enough away was, wherever they could send me, where I couldn't get back on my own, was basically the idea. Um, and so I was like, all right, well, I don't care. Like, I'm self-destructive. I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't care if I got in trouble. I didn't care if I went to jail. I didn't care if I got pregnant. In fact, I started trying to get pregnant when I was like 13, actively
Dang.
trying. Yeah, I was like, you know what? Because I didn't know who I looked like. So like in my 13-year-old head, I was like, I can have this baby. This baby's going to love me and it's going to look like me. And then I'm going to have somebody that looks like me.
Right. So you was
Right?
looking for a sense of belonging.
Absolutely. And so there's this thing
Mm.
called genetic mirroring. And so
Mm.
that basically means like whenever you're raised with people that you're related to biologically and in your same community and whatever, like you see yourself in these people. You have the same quirks, you have the same personality, you have the same, like, there's different things in each one of your relatives that are similar to you. When you
Right.
are adopted by a completely different family and you're taken away from your community, away from your culture, away from all of those things, you are in a completely foreign world, right?
Mm.
So you don't
Right.
get to do that. You don't get to line yourself up with your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, your grandma, your grandpa, whoever, and be like, oh yeah, I have their nose. Oh yeah, I act like them. Oh, I turn my head to the side when I'm thinking really hard like they do. Like, you don't get to do any of that. So
Right.
you long for that. And I wish that somebody would have been able to tell me when I was that age, explain to me what I was doing, explain to me those feelings, because if that had happened, I would not have gone down all the paths that I went down.
Right.
Because it would have made sense to me. I would have been like, oh, this is normal. I'm supposed to feel this way. Most adoptees feel this way. Oh, I get it now. Instead of just being angry and not knowing why.
Right. And and that's why I often say that it's very important to have a good relationship with your family, right? It's very important, right? Even when you're adopted, like unless I don't even want to say that because I think that even if your parents, your biological parents, even if they fall off the rock, I still feel like there should be some line of communication there, right? Because it's always important because you never know down the line you might want to know things about them. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it should still be lines of communication there. Now, are you for or against the whole adoption thing? Because it kind of sounded like you was against it.
So, okay, that's a loaded question. So I have 8 children, 6 are biological, 2 of my kids are not my biological children.
Okay.
So I feel like there's always going to be situations where adoption, not necessarily the legal sense of adoption as we know it as Americans, but adoption in a sense is necessary. Safe external care, I'll put it that way, that's what we call it in the adoption world. Safe external care is necessary in a lot of situations. I was a case manager at a place called the Hill Country Youth Ranch, which is a place for CPS children here in Texas, and
Right.
I loved those kids. Those are all foster children, and in a lot of those cases where they've come from extreme abuse and neglect, like there are cases where safe external care is needed and foster care is not the right place for them, right? But most ideally, those kids go to an extended family member or somebody within their same community or something that's familiar and not just a completely different person, different place, different family. I
Right.
will say, like, I am not grateful for adoption. I will
Mm.
never say that I am grateful for adoption. I am grateful that I met my dad. My adopted dad's my best friend in the entire world. But two things can be true at the same time, right? Like I can be grateful for the fact that I met him and I have him in my life while at the same time hating the trauma that came with adoption. So
Right.
I I agree. I completely am against domestic and international infant adoption. I can't tell you how many
Mm.
people I have met in my life that were literally kidnapped and then adopted into the U.S. There's so many of
Right.
those. They do an ancestry DNA test. They find their biological family, and then they find out that they were stolen, literally, and sold. Okay, so it's human trafficking at that point.
Right.
Um, Now, when it comes to private infant adoption, you'll love this. Actually, let me tell you something. Let me give you some good facts. Okay. So first
Right.
things first, the adoption industry in the United States is a $24.7 billion industry. It is a for-profit industry. Okay.
Right.
Do you want to know who the most expensive child to adopt is in the United States?
What's that?
It's a white female.
Okay.
White female infant, typically $50,000. Black male infant, $20,000.
Mm. Interesting. I
Very.
see you've been doing your homework. That's
Oh
good.
yeah,
Like
no,
I said,
I'm well
I like to
versed in
educate on
this.
here. So yeah, so this is pretty good because like I said, I like to educate. So this is enlightening. So wow,
Yes.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's anytime that you have money that comes into it, now you're going to have coercion and manipulation. So
Right.
there's way too many young, vulnerable teen moms in crisis that are preyed upon by adoption agencies and adoption attorneys because they can make a big profit off of those
Mm.
babies. And it's not that that birth mom gets paid anything. They don't. And most of the time they get lied to and told that they're going to be able to have an open adoption, which basically means that they get open contact with the child. Some people will mock it and say that it's not co-parenting or whatever. But the facts are that study after study after study has proven and shown that the best thing for an adoptee is to have a relationship with their biological family. They need that
Right.
genetic mirroring. They need to know they weren't abandoned. They need to know that they were not forgotten because those abandonment rejection wounds, they do a number on people and they will follow them forever. They affect everything about their life, everything about their
Right.
life.
Right.
Um, and not only that, but you've got adoptees are 10 times more likely to be abused. Adoptees are 4 times more likely to commit suicide.
Hmm.
Adoptees make up 30 to 40% of the population of jails, prisons, juvenile detention facilities, and mental health facilities.
Right.
So the statistics on adoption are not good. They're really not. And everybody wants it to be painted as this like beautiful thing. And the real truth behind it is, yeah, there are parts of adoption that are beautiful, sure. But we can't just look at it one sided, because the adoptee, no matter what, is losing something. In order for that adoption to take place, that child had to first experience trauma. And that's a fact.
Mm,
And people will try to make the argument that the child does not remember. However, I will tell you that I spent my entire day yesterday in my bed crying. I do that every year on my birthday. I can't explain why. I hate my birthday,
mm,
because to me, that day represents the day that my mom gave me away. So I have a
that's
hard
powerful.
time with that day. And I don't remember obviously being handed over. I don't remember leaving, but I do know that I was a colicky child. And it's also very common for adoptees to be very colicky, have gastrointestinal issues, because your stomachs and your emotions are very closely related.
Mm,
Um, and I was a really hard baby. I didn't sleep much. You know, my parents had me on tons of different prescriptions and stuff, trying to get my stomach under control. Like, it was a lot of issues. And I've heard that same story from so many adoptive parents. I actually help coach adoptive parents in relationships with their adoptees, because there's such a huge problem there. Like, the communication is so bad between adoptees and adoptive parents that I intervene and I help them understand each other, because I feel like if I would have
mm.
had that, everything would have been so much easier for me.
Right.
But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love how articulate and how well versed you are with the topic. Like you speak with so much passion. It's amazing.
Well, thank you.
But no problem, no problem. So I just want to jump into this first segment, right? About abortions.
Yep.
I guess the first question related to that is: are you for or against abortions?
Once again, that's such a double-edged sword for me. So here's what's funny. Um, a lot of adoptees wish that they would have been aborted, me included.
Mm,
And let me explain why.
mm,
Okay. Um, if I would have never been born, a lot
right,
of people wouldn't have been hurt. My birth mom wouldn't have been hurt by the pain that she had from losing me. My adopted parents would have been hurt from the pain that they had by having to give me back over when I was 16 and I sued them and got custody of myself. There wouldn't have been all of that drama. If I never would have existed, a lot of people wouldn't have hurt, right? But then that's a double edged sword, because you can flip it on the other side and be like, well, I've created a lot of good with my life. So a lot of people have been positively affected by my existence. So
right,
it's kind of a double edged sword. Now, I will say that I had two situations in my own personal life where abortion would have been easier for me. And here's why. I had to tell my dad two different times that I was pregnant. My husband was not the father. So it would have been a lot easier for me to get rid of that pregnancy and
right.
walk away and pretend like that never happened, right? That never happened. I don't know what you're talking about. There's no evidence because there's no baby. And instead, I chose to be like, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. I feel like I would have regretted it. I know there's a lot of people that have regretted it. I've a lot of really good friends in my life who abortion ruined them. It really
Right.
ruined them. It ruined their psyche. They can never recover. They're guilty. They feel terrible about themselves. They cannot
Hmm.
believe that they did that. And then they have severe emotional problems when they do go on to have children afterwards, or they have infertility issues. Like Bunny, Jelly Roll's wife, she had an abortion. She's very open about that, and now she's having to do IVF because the doctor damaged something on her insides whenever she had that abortion when she was a teenager, and now she doesn't know if she's
Crazy,
going to be able to have children. So
crazy.
there's so many different parts of it. I would like to call myself kind of neutral on this subject.
Okay.
Um, I would never personally have an abortion. I don't agree with abortion, but I'm not going to hate you and judge you if you choose to get an abortion.
Right. So I try not to be judgy or anything like that, right? That's just not really in my nature. But I am against abortions, and I've been like that for years. The only time that I think abortions are okay, and that I'm okay with it, is if it was rape or something like that. You know what I'm saying? If it's rape, I do not feel like a woman should be able to, oh, should be subjected to carrying that child or bearing that child or having to deal with, you know what I'm saying? Because I think that's
Looking
trauma
at
in
that
itself.
child every day and seeing her rapist face. Yeah. I mean, I get that. And then the other part of me goes to I have two IVF babies. Okay. I have two
Mm,
children that were carried by friends of mine, carried by surrogates, but they're my biological children. which is kind of wild because most adoptees are super anti-surrogacy, but and most adoptees are pro-abortion, very much so pro-abortion. But when it comes to like that whole thing, and having watched your egg, the sperm, actually be united together, and watching that baby and knowing how everything has to go perfectly in order for somebody to get pregnant. It to be ovulating, that sperm has to be at enough count in order to get up there and to impregnate that woman. That pregnancy has to actually stick. The lining on the uterus has to be right there where it needs to be. If you look at all of the different things that have to line up in order for somebody to get pregnant, for that pregnancy to stick, and for it to carry all the way to term, it's kind of like you could go back on it and be like, was it meant to be though? Because
Right.
so many other things, like if he would have raped her the following week, she wouldn't have gotten
Right.
pregnant because the egg wouldn't have been ready. Like
Right.
there's so many different, you can play devil's advocate with it all day long. I think what it really boils down to, and this is another argument for another time, but women like to throw out my body, my choice, but the same women that like to say that will try to tell you to get a COVID vaccine.
Mm.
So whose body,
Right.
whose choice? Like, are we
Right.
selective on this? Because I'm not
Right. Right.
getting no
Right.
COVID vaccine. That's not gonna
Right.
happen.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people don't see things like that, but they need to, right? That's that one track mind. They see things one
Yep.
dimensional. Or a
Yep.
lot of times what happens is people they like they hear what other people say, right? And they become creatures of their environment, right? Like
That's right.
this person is saying, that person is saying this, and now it's sort of like they manipulate themselves to believe in what everybody else. You know what I'm saying? And they
Yeah.
don't take the time to sit there and think of things through, because a
No.
lot of stuff just don't make sense. You know what I'm saying? You can't be for this and against this, but then it kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like it's crazy.
Yep.
Um, so do you think that there should be a limit on how many times a woman can get an abortion?
Absolutely. I think it's disgusting when women use abortion as birth control.
Yes,
I had a
absolutely. I mean,
girlfriend. I had a girlfriend growing up. I will never forget this. I had a girlfriend growing up who had 5 abortions before her 21st birthday because she just wouldn't get on birth control.
that's crazy. See, that's what I'm saying. That's crazy, and that's another reason why I'm against it. Like, because once you talk about like having sex and stuff, like you're an adult, right? You thinking like an adult now, right? You
Yep.
lay with that person, right? Hey, you got to bear the consequences, right?
Yep.
You wasn't thinking about the what ifs, the ifs and maybes, and you wasn't thinking about that. So you lay down with that person. Okay, now you conceive the child. Like, well, now you got to carry that through. It's part of growing up. Put your big girl
Yep.
pants on, your big man pants on, and stand on business. That's it. You know what I'm saying?
And
Don't
like,
don't
yeah,
don't flee.
exactly.
Don't run. You
Well,
got to
and
take
that's like what I
accountability.
was saying. I had 2 different times now. Listen, I've never cheated first, but I am the type of person that if you cheat on me and I tell you not to do it again, I catch you again, it's on like Donkey Kong. I'm going to get you back 10 times harder. And the way that I did that was I went and got pregnant by somebody else. And no, it's not right. But
Oh,
I was young, okay? And that's just what happened. But I so could have easily chosen to end those pregnancies and just be done with it and never have to worry about the consequences. And um with my second situation like that, I didn't know who the dad
right.
was. I didn't know which one it was. I was within
Okay.
4 days of each other. I had no clue. So it was a who the baby daddy is. And I was being told by everybody, keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything. We're not going to tell your husband about this. Keep your mouth shut. He looks like you. Don't say anything. And I had that in my head. And when he was 3 weeks old, I went to go pay my taxes on my car, and I had this baby with me. And I
Right.
knew the day he was born whose he was because he did not look like my husband. And I go to pay my taxes, and you'll never guess who showed up at the tax office 3 cars down from me when I was there that day. It wasn't the dad, it was the grandmother.
Mm.
And she gets out of her car, and I was friends with her. I knew her for a long time at this point. And she's like, "Oh, hey, Kristina, how's the new baby?" And I'm sitting here, and all that goes through my head is, this is her grandson. And she
Right.
doesn't even know it. And I
That's
couldn't
wild.
do that. I couldn't. I just couldn't do that. And I looked at her and I said, "Would you like to meet your grandson?" And she's like, "Ha ha, funny." I'm like, "No, I'm totally serious. Like, would you like to
Right.
meet your grandson? And she looked at me and I was like, so you remember when I came over to your house about 10 months ago? Like,
Right.
hi, this is your grandson. And she was like, oh my God. She asked me if her son knew. And I'm like, yes, he knows, but he doesn't want anything to do with him. And, I could have chosen to keep my mouth shut. That would have been easier. But I didn't want the same thing that happened to me to happen to my son. I didn't
Right.
want my son, because he had two older siblings in our town. I didn't want my son to go playing football with his brother and figure it out on his own in 15 years. It was
Right.
so much easier for me to have the scarlet letter on my head and for me to go down as the whore and all of the other things. Like, I would rather take that any day than for my son to have to deal with the same emotions that I did and be like,
Right.
wait a second, like, what do you mean he's not my dad? What do you mean I have a different dad out there? What do you mean I have siblings? I couldn't do that to my own kid. And I'm
Right.
thankful that I had those experiences when I did, because had I not processed that and thought through those things, I probably would have kept my mouth shut, because it would have saved me a lot of heartache, a lot of
Right.
embarrassment, a lot of name calling and everything else, which I absolutely deserved, because I shouldn't have made the decision that I did. I should have just left him. That would have been the smart thing to do. But like I said, I was young, I was 22 or something like that when that happened. So I wasn't thinking that way. I was just angry and I was hurt and I wanted to get that guy back for just constantly cheating on me. And I was like, well, you know. And what I did was I cheated on I cheated on him with the girl he was cheating on me with boyfriend.
Oh my God.
one time one time, and I got pregnant one time. So that like goes back to the whole idea, right, of like everything had to line up perfectly in order for me to get
Right.
pregnant that night. Everything.
That's crazy. Sound like you was playing a man's game out there. Like it's
It
crazy.
definitely was,
Uh,
for sure.
Roddy said he loves how open and honest you are about these situations.
I'm
So
an open book, dude. There's nothing that I hold back with. I have a TikTok. I've got like 80,000 followers. I just started it back in January. And I
that's
talk
amazing.
about all of these stories on my TikTok. If you can go find me on TikTok, Kristina Richie on TikTok. And I'm very open about this stuff, because I feel like there's a lot of other people that have these same types of situations, but they're ashamed. And when we carry all that shame around with us, it's like such a bad filter that we make all of our life decisions based off of. And if I can just help somebody like walk through their own like bad decision making, be like, hey, I didn't screw up as bad as this girl and she's all right, then I
Right.
feel like I can do some good in the world with those experiences. So you can't just let bad experiences and stupid decisions that you make completely drag you down forever. Because if you do
Right.
that, like, you're just gonna keep repeating the same patterns. And that's what I did. I've been married 4 times. Four.
Oh my God.
Okay. Yes.
Four
Married
times.
4 times, divorced 3 times, 8 kids, 4 baby daddies. Okay.
What?
So, oh yeah. So been there, done that. There's not too many things that I haven't done, experienced in my life. And I've made a lot of mistakes, but at the end of the day is I had to learn what it was that I was doing to attract the same type of man, because I married very similar men 3 different times. I married
Right.
cheaters 3 different times. I had to learn what was I doing to cause myself to be in constant chaos. And what I didn't know until I finally like hit rock bottom, like in my third marriage, and it was horrible. I had a gun held to my head, like it was really bad. When I got to that place, I was like, something's got to change here, and I think the something's got to be me, because like keeps getting worse. I can't keep
Right.
this
Right.
can't like I no. And that's actually when I decided that I was going to go get my degree in psychology. And I started studying psychology, and I was like, oh, I started studying psychology so that I could understand what the heck was so wrong with me and how the heck do I fix it? Right? Like,
Right.
why am I so broken to where I'm attracting these broken ass people? Like,
Right.
what do I do to fix this? And what I didn't realize was that I was attracting chaos, because chaos was normal for me. Look at my childhood. It was
Yep.
chaos. I was in court suing my parents when I was 16 years old. That was chaos, right? I was sneaking out. I was doing drugs. I was having sex 13 years old. Like, I was doing everything I shouldn't have been doing. It was all chaos, and chaos was comfortable for me. I didn't
Right.
know a life of peace. I didn't
Right.
know how to attract a person who liked peace, because I was drama. I was the poster
Right.
child for drama. So I
Right.
didn't know how to calm that down. I didn't know how to turn that off, because I didn't know that it was a thing. This was
Right.
just my normal life. Like, oh yeah, this crazy stuff just always happens in my life for some reason. No, Kristina, you're attracting it, you're causing it, you're creating it, you're searching for it because it's comfortable. And
And
I
I,
didn't
and
know that.
I love how you equated your childhood traumas to your own kids, right? Like when you said you rather be called names than have them find out, through somebody else and find out the bad way and possibly going through those same similar traumas. So I love any parent that thinks like that, right? Always put the well-being of your kids first
Absolutely.
and, and put yourself secondary. You know what I'm saying? Like once you do that, man, like you got an A in my book, right? Now we had a guest that said getting pregnant at 16. Stories like this make them happy about the decisions they made as a parent. So like I said, you're definitely a good speaker, and like I can tell you moving a couple of these the viewers out here. So that's good. That's good. Definitely
Yes.
gonna check out your TikToks though. Um, so a lot of times, right, like women want to keep the baby, right? But they decide to get abortions because they don't think the father will stick around. Right. Um like I think that's crazy too. And then like then once they do get the abortion, like you were saying before, it messes with them psychologically. Right. So that's another reason why like I'm against it too, because sometimes people make rash decisions and they don't think clearly.
So let's play devil's advocate on that one. Okay. So
Right.
I can understand why a woman would make that decision because the father doesn't want to be around and they don't have any support. I actually have a nonprofit. It's called Life Raft, and we help moms who have open CPS cases and are victims of domestic violence. We help them stabilize, get on their feet, and get their kids back. Okay. So I can understand where they can see that there is a fine line between making it as a single mom and losing your children to the system. And if they had been in the system, if they have abandonment rejection issues, if they have any type of experience with that, I can see where they would say it is more painful for a child to be taken away from their parents and to live in the system than it is for them to just not exist. I can
Mm.
see that logic. And if I want to play devil's advocate a little bit harder here, let's go ahead and call out the church for a second because
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
the church wants to say they're pro-life, right? And I get it.
Right.
I get it. But the church also participates in adoption, which is separating a mother and a child, okay?
Right.
Which causes psychological issues. It's literally division, and that's against their beliefs to begin with. But also, the church has all these big ass buildings. They have all these classrooms. They have the money. They have the
Mm.
resources. They have little old grannies that can help with childcare so that the single
Oh.
mom isn't trying to wait 90 days for her ABC vouchers. They have the
Oh.
money to feed them. They don't have to tell them, no, I can't pay your light bill next month because I paid it last month. They don't help. So
Right.
if they want to claim to be pro-life, if all these people want to claim to be pro-life, but they don't want to help these single moms who are out here struggling, then
Preach.
take a back seat.
Right, right, right. I love that. She said, "Let's talk about the churches." That
Just
was right
saying.
up my alley. I was surprised I ain't had no religious people comment so far.
I mean,
So
if I would love somebody to try to argue that with me. I would love it.
I
Let's go.
don't know if Chef's still on here, but he definitely would have if he is. Uh,
If you
so
can
let me
show
ask you
me
this.
a church that would rather support single moms in that situation to where they don't abort their child and they are actually able to live a good life with their kid, if you can show me a church that can do that instead of taking that money and buying their pastor a private jet or
Yeah.
building another building or renovating their current building, if you can show me churches that are consistently doing that instead of worrying about their next tax write-off, let's go.
I love that. I got a good question for you though. So let's say a woman wants an abortion, right? But the man want to keep the baby. Should the man have any say on whether that
Absolutely
baby?
yes.
There you go.
Absolutely, yes.
You the only
100%. It
person
is
I
your baby as much as it is her baby. Sorry.
I love that. See, you're the only person that took that approach. Anybody else I ask, they normally say hell no, and they automatically say it's up to the woman because the woman got to carry it. So, hey, China, what's up? By the way, you said bingo to like you agree, or bingo to something else. But yeah, I'm a firm believer in that too. I think the man should have say, right? I don't think that
And
because you
you know what
labeled
else
that
is
man.
crazy too? What else is crazy too is in a lot of states, if somebody wants to give their child up for adoption, they don't even have to have the parents, the dad's permission. They can
It's
say that the
crazy.
father is unknown. There's actually a
Hmm.
case. There's one case in Florida right now. This man's been fighting for his child for years that he didn't know he had because the mom lied and said that she didn't know who the father was. She did know who the father was. He found out the child had been adopted out, and he's been fighting for custody of his child against the adopted parents for years.
Hmm.
That's wrong. That should not be a thing. It takes
Nope.
two parts of DNA. Yes, the mom has to be the incubator. I completely understand that. Whatever. I've carried 4 babies. It ain't that bad. Come on now.
Yeah. And and then like yeah, it's crazy like because women always want to talk about whether or not they're equal or not to men, or it's a lot of discussions out there. Are women equal to a man? And I often say yes, right? And that's if not equal, they get the man's not equal to them. If you know what I'm saying, because I feel like women got more rights, just like you was just saying. A woman can sit there and say, "Oh, I want an abortion." The man say, I want it." And they like, nah, that's what the mother say. It's a lot of things that it's the world has changed, and the women benefit greatly, right? Like they don't even consider a man anymore these days. Like when it comes to like custody, it's so hard for a man to get custody,
It
right?
is.
So any man that wins custody, like me myself, I applaud him. You know what I'm saying? Because it's very hard. It's so
So
easy for women. A woman could be on drugs, a woman could be in and out of jail, and the judges still say, "I just don't feel comfortable separating that child from that mother,"
okay, but
and
let me
that's
explain
insane.
why. Let me explain why.
Go ahead.
So there's something called maternal fetal separation, and it causes severe psychological issues. The cortisol levels to go up in the baby. There's stress hormone. Cortisol is stress hormone. So that's
Yeah.
another reason why adoption is not a good thing, especially when that baby is super young, is because that causes stress on that child. So that is the reason that judges do not prefer to separate a child from the mother, is because they are bonded in utero.
Even if the mother is a complete hot mess. I
Yes.
mean, I think that's insane. And say she unemployed. So let's throw that in there. She's unemployed. The father got a banging job making all this money, and you still say no to that man. That's insane.
No, I don't say no to that man, but I will say this, okay? I have custody of my ex-husband's kids from another woman.
Oh my goodness. I could, yeah, she's a
So,
stand-up woman.
so 2 of my kids are my ex-husband's children. I raised them since ages 1 and 3, and we got divorced when they were 8 and 10. And they called me mom their whole life because their mom is a drug addict and she's been in and out of jail and prison their entire lives. And even with that, even with her being on meth, even with her being on heroin, even with her going in and out of prison, I never cut that woman off out of their lives. In fact, I moved her into my house one time after sending her to rehab to reunite with her children. She lived with me for a year.
What the fuck? Now, see, hey, listen, I commend you for that. Like, but I couldn't do that. Like, what? That's deep. That is deep right there. Your life story should be a movie,
I
or your
agree.
next book. Your next book should be this, because this is entertaining. This is great. I love this. This is powerful. It seriously is. Um, Ch- China said the Georgia laws are crazy when it comes to custody. How so, China? Because I don't know nothing about Georgia laws.
So that's what happened. So my case where I got custody was actually in South Carolina, which South Carolina and Georgia have almost identical laws. So the reason I was able to get custody of my 2 now former stepkids that I have guardianship of, is because of something called de facto parentage, which basically means like if you have a parent-child like relationship or bond with a child, any child in the state of South Carolina or North Carolina, you can petition for custody of that child. You just have to be able to prove
Mm,
the bond. And I
right.
did because I raised them for, so many years. So I was able to successfully get full custody. He got no contact, no child support, no visitation.
Wow. That's 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 powerful. You like it's crazy because you talk about your traumas, right? It's amazing how you took your childhood traumas and you evolved and you became such a powerful, inspirational woman, right? That's a great thing, right? When somebody can take something at their lowest point and they elevate, right? That's good. So I hope anybody that's been watching, I hope they motivated and I hope they inspired by this because it's that's deep for real. This all this should be in the book. Like seriously, I would definitely read that because listening to it now, I'm like, dang, don't put an exclamation point on it, no period, no just run on sentences. I'm okay with it.
Yep.
Uh, so banning abortions, right? Puts women at risk of unsafe abortions, right? If a woman gets in an unsafe and non-professional abortion, should it be considered a crime? And if so, what should the punishment be?
All right, so I'm gonna throw way back on another story here with this one.
Okay.
Okay, so last July, I was dropping my daughter off at work, and I left her work, and I was going to go get back on the freeway, and I see this older black man on the side of the road, and it looked like his car had broken down, and so I pulled over to ask him if he needed help. He was like walking with a cane. He had a little suitcase and a bag, and the car was sitting there with the flashing lights on, and I'm like, oh no, he must have ran out of gas. Let me help him. He could barely walk. Okay, so I pull over, and then the car pulls off. And there's nothing but this old man sitting there on the side of the road. And I asked him if he was okay, if he needed help. He starts crying, tells me he's 74 years old. He was just mugged in a train station, all these things. Well, I'm like, get in. And I didn't know what I was going to do with this man. I had no idea what I was going to do with this man. But I ended up taking care of this man for about 4 months. It turned out that he was homeless. He was a single dad for 28 years. His son was severely disabled, and his son had passed away in December. And then he went and got on the train and just traveled around the country. And right before I found him, he was mugged in a train station, and then got off the train, went and got medical help, and then couldn't get back on the train because the muggers had stolen his ID, his credit cards, everything. So he had nothing. He did have money, but it was in a bank account. He couldn't access it because the closest bank was in New Mexico. So anyways, we're going to call this guy Uncle Fred because that's his name. He's my Uncle Fred now. So Uncle Fred and I became very close over those 4 months. I moved him from Airbnb to Airbnb. I literally like helped him get his compression socks on. I took him to the grocery store. I fed him. I did everything that I possibly could. I ended up getting him his passport, getting him his state ID for Texas, got him all the things. And in all of my time with Uncle Fred, it was really interesting because Uncle Fred is a hardcore Democrat from New York City. He's 74 years old. He's lived a lot of life. And we would get into these conversations because he has a memory of when he was 11 years old. He was playing baseball in New York City, and he accidentally hit the ball into an alleyway behind his apartment building. And he went back there to go get it. And his sister's best friend, who was 14 years old, was dead in the alleyway because she was trying to give herself an abortion with a hanger. And so that is why he is so pro-abortion, is because he witnessed that with his own two eyes, right? And I know that if we outlaw and ban abortion, it's not going to stop people from getting abortions. Do I think that it should be a crime if they decide to do it? Well, if they outlaw it and then you still choose to do it, technically you're breaking a law. Like, do we need to like argue like what laws need to have punishment when you break them or not? Because that opens up kind of a slippery slopey door right there, if you ask me.
Right,
So
right,
it's
right.
kind of like, if they make it illegal and you do it anyways, then yes, you need to be punished just because it's a law and you're breaking it. And if you go to a store and you steal something, that's illegal. So therefore it's a law and you broke it and you're getting punished for it. Like, why should there be any kind of differentiation between two laws being broken?
So what severity should it have as a crime?
So if it was me, I would say that it shouldn't get one and it shouldn't be outlawed, just because number one, people are still going to do it. Number two,
Right.
you're going to have more people dying because of it, because they're going to go try to do it in an alleyway with a coat hanger. And number three, like, I feel like people that, not all, not all, there are people with like attachment disorders that don't feel anything whenever that happens, but there's a lot of people that live with the regret, the shame, the guilt after having the abortion, and that's really all the consequence that they need personally, is what I believe.
Right. Okay. So many believe a fetus is a human being with the right to life from conception, and abortion is therefore morally wrong. If I said that any woman who is pregnant and does not want to keep the baby should be obligated to carry and then put the baby up for adoption afterwards, what would you say to that?
Oh man, if I knew that that baby was going to be given up for adoption, I would rather see it aborted. I hate to say that.
Hmm.
I do.
So that's
and
deep.
and
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 I
that's
listen,
because
and I
coming
get it.
from an adoptee, I know the pain of that wound, and I would not wish that pain on anybody.
So I know what you went through, but what I was saying, like, I mainly pose that question because, like I said, I'm against it, and I think that like if
Right.
if you're pregnant and if it wasn't through like incest or rape, I feel like you should be obligated to carry the baby. And if you don't want the baby, put the baby up for adoption. Now, I know what you went through, but I'm not saying there shouldn't be lines of communication, right? I feel like I said earlier, I think there should be. And I think for me personally, I think that should be the thing with that. Like, because the thing is, I'm also against people making rash decisions. What if you say you don't want the baby and the law says you carry the baby and
Hold on,
you
though.
change your
Stop right
mind?
there. Wait, there's a really good point to make right there with what you just said. Do you know how hard it is if you decide to place a child?
Uh,
Hold on, sorry. You know how hard it is if you decide to place your child for adoption? Do you know how difficult it is if you change your mind to get that baby back? It's impossible. Like, you don't get the baby
yeah,
back. So
yeah.
I think that if we opened up the ability for that, did you also know that, oh my gosh, hold on one second. I have kind of a little bit of an emergency. Hold on one second. Hold
Okay.
on.
So China, you say you agree with which part, China?
Sorry.
I got plugged.
I had
It's a,
dogs that got out and they were going after my chickens, and that is a no-no.
I
There's a
got you.
huge
What?
storm
Uh,
outside.
1 second. I got to plug the charger up. 1 second.
No, you're good. I do too. Landon, can you come get your brother for me? Hello. Hey, baby.
All right.
My phone fell off the thing. Sorry. Hold on. Let me make sure that I got this all secured on here. Yeah, can you get him out, please? Let's go. Thank you. Sorry, that was my 2-year-old. Okay. So this thing needs to secure. There we go. We're good now. So anyways, if you're considering like that, right? And the fact that if you know for a fact that that baby is going to be given up for adoption, I have a really hard time with saying that baby needs to be here no matter what, because I know the pain that that baby's going to go through. I know the feelings that that baby is going to go through. So if I knew that they were going to have a negative outcome regardless, I mean,
So,
that's a hard one for me.
so do you think in all cases the baby would, grow up with these hardships and these traumas?
Yes, adoption trauma, 100%. There's now, hold on. So trauma is dependent based off of how somebody deals with it, how somebody handles it, right? So it's
Right.
kind of like
Right.
you and I get in a car accident. I don't want to ever drive again the next day. I'm not going to work. Somebody's going to have to drive me. I don't want to get in the car, but you're like, dude, what the hell? Like, it wasn't that bad. And you go drive yourself to work, right?
Right.
We're both had trauma, but we handled it differently, right?
Right.
So adoption trauma, yes, there's no way to get around having adoption trauma if you are adopted. You have adoption trauma. It is a thing. It's scientifically proven. Our brains are altered whenever we are separated from our natural mother.
Got you.
Whether or not they're going to handle it in a terrible way or ever come out of the fog, as we call it, is subjective. We don't know that. We don't
Right.
know that they're going to negatively have, suicidal ideations as a result. But abandonment, trauma, rejection, all those things negatively impact the adoptee. Most adoptees don't realize that they have it. They haven't dug deep enough to realize that this is why they've been married so many times. This is why they've been in so many abusive relationships. This is why they have so many baby daddies. They don't put 2 and 2 together, okay?
Right.
Because they haven't dug as deep as I have. So that's what my goal always is to educate on these particular subjects, because
Right.
it's important for people to open their eyes and be like, oh, that's why I keep doing that, right? Not,
Right.
oh, that wasn't a coincidence, no way, right? But see, this is where I contradict myself. Like, I can sit on either side of the fence, okay?
Right.
Because I'm an IVF mom, right? So I was in love with a little picture of a little embryo from the second that they gave it to me.
Right.
So to me, that little cluster of cells was my baby. And this is
Right.
going to sound so weird, but whenever we made embryos and I left the clinic, I cried because I felt like I was leaving my babies at that clinic. I was like, I don't want to leave my babies.
Right. Right.
But then you have another side to this. And this is important to talk about too, because a lot of people don't know this. Whenever you do IVF, What happens if you get 15 embryos? And what happens if you don't want to transfer all 15 embryos? What happens if you don't want the possibility of having 15 plus children as a result of
Right.
those embryos? You have three options. Option number one is you adopt it out. That's not an option for me. Option number two is you donate it to science. Also not happening. I don't trust any scientists to do something humane with my DNA. Option
Right.
number three is you destroy them.
Hmm.
So is that the same thing as an abortion?
I was just about to say yes. In my book,
Right?
same thing.
And see, for me, destroying them is the lesser of the three evils because it would take a perfect storm for those embryos to actually develop into a baby.
Right.
I transferred a total of 6 embryos before I got one child.
Hmm.
So the chances of the 5 embryos that I have left all developing into a baby that's here with us is very, very slim.
Right.
So out of a total of, I transferred 7 embryos total and got 2 babies out of 7 embryos. If I have 5 left, you do the math. I might get one. It's going to cost me $50,000 plus to do that. And I'm done having kids. I think 8's enough. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine. Even though I did fancy the idea a couple times, as crazy as that sounds, we had a guest that said at one point she what did she say? She wanted the abortion but changed her mind. And then we have China that says she agreed with you, and then she says, I have had nieces and nephews that went up for adoption and were raped by the
Yep.
whoa, raped by the
Yep.
adopted parents, etc. Just
Yep.
because you put them up for adoption does not make mean the baby is better off. And then she says abortions over adoption.
So here's the thing. She's right. And this is where she's right. Adoption does not promise a better life. It only promises a different one.
Right. Yeah,
And
it's crazy,
adoptees
right?
are 10 times more likely to be abused.
Mm. So let me ask you this: when does life begin, in your opinion?
Um, well, when does life begin, or when does somebody have the ability to feel pain? Is really
Well,
my
what
question.
as far as the fetus, like what do you consider life?
I would consider like whenever that heart is beating, that to me
Yeah.
is a significant milestone, but also whenever they're viable. Now, I would never ever condone an abortion at 20 weeks or something crazy like that. No freaking way. Um, I would probably judge you for that, honestly, if I'm being really honest. But when that heart is beating and there's a like an obvious life there, I feel like that to me is more significant than cells that are dividing. And
Right.
that's because I've watched this under a microscope with my own children and seen my own embryos that were transferred that were really, great embryos not end up creating a pregnancy.
Right.
So just because it's an embryo doesn't mean that that embryo is going to travel down the fallopian tube and connect onto the wall of the uterus and grow for enough time in order for it to develop into a live birth. It just doesn't.
Right. Now, I ask you that because those who oppose abortion, right, they often argue that life begins at conception, making the fetus a human being with the right to life, right? Do you feel as though life begins at conception, or do you think life begins at birth or at a later stage in development?
I mean, okay. So do I believe that life begins at conception? I mean, you could argue it either way. You could argue that like that is a life now that the cells decided that they were going to multiply. You could argue that. Um,
Okay.
could that embryo is that embryo 100% going to turn into a human being and like be here with us? No,
Right.
it's not. That's a
Right.
fact. That's a fact.
Now, when we talk about the fetus and we talk about embryos, it's two different things, correct?
Sure. Yep.
Okay. So once we start calling it a fetus, is that life?
I would
Or
definitely consider a fetus life. Yes, absolutely.
okay, because like I said, there's a
Absolutely.
lot of people that feel like it got to be fully developed, like the eyes, the fingernails. That happens later on in life. So a lot of people feel that way. But I feel like as soon as we start saying it's a fetus, I feel like that's life.
I could get on board
And
with that. I mean, because you've got literally an egg and a sperm. They get together, and now you got to think of, they call it, it's either a zygote or a gamete or whatever, and then it develops into the embryo, and then the embryo is a blastocyst, right? Once it hits 5 days, it's now a blastocyst. You take your little hatchling, you transfer it into a uterus. It doesn't even have to be the natural mother's uterus, and
Right.
now you're hoping that it's going to, connect and bury itself into the lining of that uterus, which is hopefully the right thickness and all of the right pH balance. And then it's going to continue to grow, and there's not going to be no placental issues. That's going to develop in order to be able to feed the baby and give it oxygen and all the things. And then now the baby's going to have to start developing a heartbeat at 5 weeks ish, 4.5, 5 weeks. I've been pregnant 4 times myself, so I have a lot of experience with that. Plus, I've had 2 babies via surrogacy, so I have a lot of pregnancy experience as well. But
See that?
I've had so many ultrasounds in my life, and to me, the second I see that little blurb on the screen, that's mine. That's my baby. I'm like, it's here. It's mine.
Absolutely. So what rights do a fetus have? That's a question I hear a lot of people ask. What rights does that fetus have?
Well, it's a great question. So that
And
rights, though, is like a law type of term. Like it's like a technicality. So I guess that fetus has different rights depending on its gender and where it's located.
gender, a fetus has different rights depending on gender. Explain that. This
Well,
goes back to what I was saying before.
let's think about it. If that fetus is in China and it's a female and it was 40 years ago, 20 years ago, and they have a one female only policy, like they've got different rights, like depending on what country that fetus, whatever womb
Okay,
that fetus is in and whatever country it is in, it has different rights based
I
off
got
of
you.
different things.
So I thought you were talking about in general. I was about to say, here we go.
No, no.
Um, so if a fetus is considered a human being with the right to life, right?
Mhm.
Then and then I was like, all right, so what rights do it have, right? So some argue that um the fetus can't claim rights against the pregnant woman if it's still in the womb, right? But I will pose this question, right? So a baby that's actually born into the world, like it's born, it's delivered. Well, they can't speak, so at that point they still can't claim rights against the mother.
Correct.
So isn't that the same thing, right? Like, right?
Okay, hold on.
So so
I'm gonna throw one at you. Are you ready?
yeah.
So we're gonna have that topic of conversation. Why don't we talk about the fact that every infant adoptee is entered into a contract without their consent?
Oh my God, we're going down that rabbit hole. I mean, yeah, but okay, but we're here to procreate though, like
Sure, no, I get
you
it, but
know.
I'm just saying, like, to me, that's where my brain automatically goes, because I'm like, well, I was entered into a contract without my consent. I was put into a lifelong contract for these people who were complete strangers to me to be my parents, and I lost all inheritance from, mind you, my multimillionaire birth mother and her family. I lost that because somebody, 2 other parties, decided to sign a piece of paper and enter me into a lifelong contract, change my birth certificate, change my name, change who's on my birth certificate, violated a ton of my civil rights, 15 of
Mm,
them actually. So I'm kind of like, well, what rights do babies have? I guess none, because I didn't have any.
right. I mean, I dig that. I dig that. But but so that's what. So the point I was trying to make is, some people like talk about what rights do a fetus have. Well, but then they say like once the baby's actually delivered, the baby has rights. So what I was saying is, it's the same thing. The baby can't claim rights against the mother once it's delivered, or if it's just in the womb still. So it's the same thing. So for the people that say once the baby is delivered, it's a human being and they have rights. To me, that's just lunacy because it should be the same thing in the womb. Either way, they can't claim, they can't protest, they can't do none of that. So if you're gonna call life once it's delivered, once it's a fetus and it has features of a human being, it has a
Yeah,
heartbeat,
totally. Totally
so it's a
does.
human being. So I think people need to look at it that way. Like
Sure.
to hear people say that, oh, if it's still in the womb, it's not a human. That's
Right.
crazy to me.
I
You know,
agree with
it's it's,
you.
it's life. It's life
Yep. I agree
because
with you.
because at the same time, as we were saying earlier, how people don't look at things. People look at things narrowly, right? So why do we speak to the stomach, right? Why we rub the woman's belly, right? Why do we play
Right.
songs and stuff? Because we're
Right.
trying to nourish and condition that child, that life. So a
Right.
lot of people, they don't take the time, like I said earlier, to consider these things. Right away, they be like, "Oh, it's not a baby yet. It's not a human being," and it's just crazy. And
I agree.
like, it's crazy. It jogs my mind a lot. Like, it gives me a headache sometimes listening to people talk. Hey,
So this is one of
how
my
old?
little frozen embryos right here.
How old?
And I have a photo of him when he was literally conceived. I know the exact moment, day, and time he was conceived because it was done in a lab. And I have the photos of him developing his first 5 days and the day that he was transferred into my friend's uterus. So for
Mm,
me, that was my baby the second that he was, created. I remember getting the phone calls about, we got 18 eggs, 15 of them fertilized, and they call you every other day to tell you what the updates are, right? So then on day 3, it was like, okay, well, out of the 15 that fertilized, only 12 continued to develop in the first 24 hours. So, to me, I was attached to that little embryo before it ever became a blastocyst, right? Like
mm,
I was attached very early on. Now, can I see why people think that they can argue the other side? Absolutely. But I try not to judge, and I try to be compassionate, and I try to think of, everyone makes decisions based off of their own perspectives and their own experiences in life. And so
mm.
maybe somebody else's perspective wasn't that, and they can't understand that. Maybe they have an attachment disorder and they have a hard time attaching to that idea that that is a human being. Maybe they have been hurt so bad and they don't love their life and they wish that they were never born. Like there's
Right.
so many different parts to that.
I got you. You still there?
Yeah, hold on one second. All right, I'm back.
So one of the guests said that they love the question from before. They said it's a great topic. And China says, that is so true, girl. She's like, she love you.
Okay, well, I love you too. We
That's like
besties now.
it's like girl problem. I mean, power.
Yes.
Um, hold on one second. So I ask you this: should society prioritize the rights of the pregnant woman, the rights of the fetus, or a combination of both?
Oh, all right. So that kind of brings in the topic of if you have a pregnant woman and she's having complications and it's her life or the baby's life, which one do you choose? Right.
Right.
So I've actually had a couple of different friends that have died after childbirth, 2 friends. And so it brings something into perspective for me that I never would have thought of had I not known somebody with that exact scenario. So one of my friends, this was her second baby. And she had to choose. She had breast cancer while she was pregnant. She had to choose between doing this radiation that was going to save her life. She had like stage 4 breast cancer, or having this baby. And she chose to have the baby, and she passed away. Oh,
Mm.
please, baby girl. So it brings into consideration the fact that, are you going to leave your other children without a mother, and the father of these children to raise these babies by himself? Or are you going to choose for your children to have a mom and not have this baby? Like that's a really heartbreaking, horrible decision to ever even think about. Like, am I robbing my kids of having their mom who's already here, my kids that already exist?
Right.
Or am I going to let this child that doesn't know anything about life yet, am I going to choose to have this child and my husband hopefully does a good job raising it by himself? What happens if he can't do it and he ends up going into the system? Like there's so many different things to think about in that
Right.
situation. Now, I will tell you that in my own like personal will, I chose that if it was me or the baby, let the baby live. That
Ooh.
was me.
It's powerful. Your story just keep getting powerful and powerful. Yeah, it's deep. It's a slippery slope, as you said earlier, because it's a lot of things you can consider. Like so for the mother to um choose herself over the baby, right? Now you got to think about how she's going to be psychologically after that.
Well, yeah,
She,
and not only that, but like people look at it like she's choosing herself. She's not choosing herself. She's choosing her other children.
right,
Like, do
right,
those children deserve to grow up without a mom? And
right,
the way that I chose to look at that is, if that's what takes me out, my kids know that I was doing it because I wanted this baby to be here. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten pregnant to begin with, basically. And I lived this many years and I got this much life. This baby hasn't even had a start yet. So
Right.
hopefully I had a good enough partner that would be able to raise that baby and do a good job. Now I know that I have that now. I have a night and day experience. All of that pain and turmoil and horrible, bad relationship bullshit that I went through before just really set me up to love and appreciate my husband now. So I have an amazing husband now. And if that situation was to come up right now, I can tell you, like, yeah, I would choose the baby. I would say,
Ooh,
let this baby live. And let's like hope and pray, even though I don't do that, that I make it
right.
somehow, right? But
So
yeah,
yeah, it was a comment. It says the hardest decision to make. No mom will give up the baby, right? And that's one of those things. If it was a movie, that's a tearjerker. I don't
for
even care
sure.
if it's a father, right? Because a real man that has kids, it's a tearjerker, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like any man would shed a tear on it because that's one of those emotional things.
Yeah.
And and I think as a father, that will fuck with you psychologically as well, right?
Yeah,
Either way,
totally.
right? Because if I was in that situation, it's like lose a kid, lose the mother of my child. It's tough, and I couldn't be the one to make that decision. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And whoever make that decision, I know for a fact that I'm gonna envy them to some degree. Like I don't know how long that'll be, because if you choose a child, then that's gonna play mind tricks on me, right? Or if it's the
Yeah.
other way around, lose the person I built with, I bonded with, I laid with, slept with, and went through the whole process with. It's either way, emotionally, I'm gonna be fucked up, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
need a shrink. I'm gonna need therapy. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
So
yeah.
that's one of those things. It's definitely tough, and I couldn't make a decision. Just like pulling the plug on the parent, I couldn't make that decision.
Right.
Even if I know they had no chance to make it past a week, I still couldn't stomach making that decision.
Nope. I agree with you.
Oh, let me see what this comment say. Yeah, but the kid who lives would have to live with the knowledge that mom died for them to live.
That's
I
true.
mean,
That's true. That's true. You cannot, those are valid feelings. That is a valid comment for sure.
appreciate that.
It
I mean,
is.
like I
It's
said, it's
valid.
it's it's tough. Now, go back to what we was talking about, the psychological effects, right? Does abortion have long-term psychological effects on women, such as depression, anxiety, and regret?
Absolutely. Yes. That like there's been study after study after study after study that's proven that. So yes, it does.
Mm. So again, so if abortion increases your anxiety, right? It increases your state of depression,
Yep.
and then increases your regret level. It's like, why are so many people, why are they so pro abortion? I don't get it, right? Like I just don't. Like I've known a lot of people that got abortions and they lost weight or they turned to drugs, like substance abuse, because
Me too.
I think I think a part of them really wanted the kid, but they were
Yeah.
scared of raising it on their own, or if afraid of failing, right? Because that's one of the biggest fears in America is the failure. Nobody want to fail.
Yeah, of course.
Um, so I don't know. I always felt this way. I'm just 100% against abortions, and then it's great that I asked you that
You're
question
not a
earlier
hundred
about.
percent. You're not 100%. You're like 95 because you have exceptions
Well,
to
yeah.
your own rule.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, well, yeah. I was just about to say, because that's inhumane in itself, and I don't think that, because that's a different story, but that's different. I'm talking about if you go out there and you lay with somebody and it's legal, right? And you do it by your own accord, like then that's where I'm against it, because I know a lot of people that like you said earlier, they use it as birth control. They I know, man. I know somebody. I ain't gonna say their names. Almost slipped. I know somebody that had 13 abortions in a 6 month span, and
Mm.
I was like, what in the fuck? You know what? So my oldest son's mother, she had multiple abortions herself, and I remember she had got pregnant. She asked me if I wanted to go with her. I'm like, yo, that's so disrespectful because I'm against abortions. And I don't know why I made the decision, but I made the decision to go with her one time, and I was doing well until they called her name. They called her name, and I felt less of a man because I broke, right? I broke right then and there, and people was looking at me crazy, like, okay, it's abortion. What's the big deal? And for at least for a week, I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that I could have had another kid,
Yeah.
right? And
And
it,
then
and
when
it
your
bothered
next
me.
kid is born, then what? You look at that kid every day and you think, what would my other child have looked like? Would they have looked similar?
Yeah,
What would
and
they
and,
be
and it,
doing right now? The first time that I was ever exposed to abortion or the idea of even abortion, I was 13 years old. I had a girl that was living with us who was going to college, and she had a roommate. And that roommate, I remember, was talking about getting an abortion. She got pregnant, she got an abortion. And till this day, it bothers her. And then one of my very best friends that I've known since I was 7 years old, same story. She got an abortion when we were teenagers, and she still regrets it till this day. She has two kids now, and she looks at those kids every day, and she's just like, "Oh, I wonder what the oldest one would look like because these two look just alike," you know?
right.
And I hate that for those women. I feel like that has got to be like the hardest thing. But question, like those women that do have babies that are of incest, those women that do have babies, that were products of rape and they choose to abort, do you not think they have those same feelings? I promise you they do, because I sat in on a court trial for a little girl who was impregnated by her grandfather, and her mom forced her to get an abortion. And she still regrets that abortion. She didn't have a say so in that abortion, but she's still upset about that abortion. And that was her grandfather's baby. So like things
See,
like that happen all the time, and people still regret it, even if it is rape, and even if it is incest or both. They still have feelings about it. Some are able to block it out, but there's a lot that are not. There's a lot that morally don't align with it and they feel bad. So why, I guess my question to you is, how are you able to like put that wall up and say, well, these abortions are okay and these ones are not?
well, because I'm looking at it from like a morality, right? Like the whole rape thing, and then conceive it. I just think
Yeah.
it's. I just feel like it's almost like double jeopardy, right? Because you went through the trauma of getting raped. Now you got to live with the trauma of going the 9 months, right? And then conceiving that child and looking at that child and reliving your victim. I mean, yeah, not your victim, the perpetrator. You got to
Sure.
relive that every time you see him. Especially if the facial features resemble that man. I just think that's like double jeopardy, and it's crazy. So that's what I'm saying. It's not really putting a wall up. I just think it's more long term effects psychologically, and
But don't
I
you think
don't
that
think.
that woman's going to have the same psychological issues? Like she's going to have the same psychological issues as any other woman that aborts a baby, right? Like she's going to have the regret, the shame, regardless. Like, well,
I think
maybe
it's
it wouldn't have
possible.
been that bad. Maybe that baby would
No,
have looked like me and not him. Maybe I would have
right,
loved that
right,
baby anyways.
right. I think it's possible, and I listen. I've known a couple people that kept a baby after being raped, and it's one of those touchy topics that I didn't really want to dive into with the two people I know that kept a baby, that was conceived through rape. So I never really got deep with them, but I always wanted to because I want to know why, right? Like, but I think that's just womanly, right? Like I don't know, you I don't know. Um, yeah, like I said, some women they don't care. Like, well, they care about the situation, but they don't care because the baby, they carried the baby, they bonded with the baby,
Well, and
and
I
like
think
you were saying earlier, sometimes
a lot of that too is how they were raised, and if their parents, believed in abortion or not, and if they were raised to believe that it's shameful and that you shouldn't do it, or if they were raised to believe, my body, my choice. It all depends on their own perspective of the world, and that is what's going to cause them to be okay with their decision or not.
right. And I don't want to speculate too much, but I think a lot of it might have to do with them they trying to find a sense of purpose, or they might have been neglected growing up, or that love they was looking for, they didn't get. So now they conceiving something. Now they looking at it like I get to bear life as I see fit. You know what I'm saying? Or that father might not be there because every woman, every little girl, they say they try to find a man that emulates their father, right? Or they
Mhm.
look for that father figure. So when their father's not there, a lot of times what happens is that's why pregnancy is at an all-time high. The father figures is not present, so they grow up fatherless, and then they go out and look for a father figure, not necessarily somebody to be their
Yeah.
dad, but a father figure, that man to do the things that a father should do for their daughters.
Well, what they're
And I
looking
think
for is they're looking for love and they're looking for acceptance. So,
Insecurity. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and security. All women want security unless they can create it themselves, which is the right thing to do. But that's what they want. That's what they want. They want love. And unfortunately, that's the same thing that happens in every single adoption situation, whether or not you grow up with great adoptive parents or not, you still carry the abandonment and rejection wounds as if you were raised by a single mom and your dad wanted nothing to do with you. It's the same thing. And like for
Mm,
me, I got a double whammy because when I met my birth father, one of the first things he said to me is, I gave up my rights to you 14 and a half years ago. Don't call me dad, call me Brent. So that was kind of like,
man.
oh, wow, okay, that's cool, So that was just, and there's a lot of adoptees out there that get twice rejected. Like they go on
Mm,
Ancestry, they do their stuff, and then they find their birth family and they go knock on their door and they're like, I gave you up for a reason. I don't want anything to do with you. Leave me the hell alone. And like, I can't imagine having that secondary rejection. I cannot imagine that. And I think that those people also do the same thing. They will settle down with, a lot of them get with narcissists because they really want the love, and a narcissist is a really easy they're such good con artists, and they make you believe that they really do love you, and that they love you more than anything and anyone in the entire world, and they love bomb you, and they get you flowers in front of your friends so that your friends tell you that he must be such a good guy. Oh, how sweet, he got you flowers, all the things, right? They play on your emotions, and who they present themselves as, they're not. And so you go through these patterns. That's what's happened to me. You go through these patterns of getting with people like that, and you think that what you're going after is this unconditional love that you want so badly, only come to find out that it wasn't real to begin with. So until
mm.
you know that you need to be looking for those things in yourself, and you don't go looking for it in everybody else, and until you recognize that people with abandonment and rejection issues do the same things and act the same way and look for the same stuff, once you know that, then you're like, oh my God, that's why I'm doing this. That is so dumb. Right. But
Right.
until you
Right.
know that, and you don't know, all you know is there's something broken inside of you. There's something that you are longing for, that you are looking for, and you don't know what it is or how to find it. So you feel like you found it in this person because they gave you a little bit of attention and they told you that they loved you a week in after texting. And now all of a sudden you move this deadbeat into your house within 2 weeks. Tell me I'm not talking from experience here. You move this deadbeat in within 2 weeks thinking that you found the love of your life. In all reality, he just got broken up with by his last girlfriend for catching him cheating, and he has nowhere to go. And so, he knows how to sweet talk you enough into moving him in. That kind of situation happens over and over and over again because you're looking for love in all the wrong places, and you don't really even know what love looks like. Because listen, when you're adopted or your biological mother or father left you at any point in your life, to you, people tell you when you're adopted, well, she gave you up because she loved you. So now I'm equating love with abandonment.
Ooh,
What?
powerful.
Come
Talk
on.
that. I like that. I like that. That was definitely moving right there. And I wasn't sure where you was gonna go with that, but yeah, that's true. And yeah, I didn't know you was gonna go there with it, but yeah, that's absolutely true what you said. Um,
Yeah.
and that's true. Like a lot of people, they don't know what love is, so so if they don't know what love is, or they don't love themselves, how can we
Correct.
expect them to love somebody else?
It's a
And
self-worth issue. It's 100% a self-worth issue.
right
100% a
now,
self-worth issue.
Now, I want to ask you this about the whole narcissist thing. Do you think narcissist people are negative people, bad people?
Absolutely. They're evil human beings. Yes.
So I asked you that for two reasons. So I have a therapist, and I don't agree with it, but I've been venting to people about it. My therapist told me that I was a narcissist, and I mean, like I said, I don't agree with the term. I don't think I'm a
Hold
narcissist,
on.
but
Freeze. Is your therapist an LMFT, an LPC, or a psychologist?
um, so I don't know what those other things was, but I know she's a psychologist. That's all I know.
She's
I
a
don't know what her
psychologist,
degrees
like
are.
she's like a doctor, so she can actually diagnose you, or is she telling you that you have narcissistic tendencies?
Okay. So first she said I had narcissistic tendencies. And
Okay.
then she went on to tell me that I was a control freak. And then I was like, nah, I'm far from that. I'm not a control freak. So then she tried to break it down. So she tried to shrink me, right, into this little box. She tried to bring me down to like here to the point where I was like, well, I can see now that you broke it down like that, I see where you're headed with this.
Sure.
But I do not think that I'm a narcissist or a control freak. So she went from saying I have narcissistic tendencies to calling me a full-fledged narcissist. And I was like, no.
Okay. So let's go there for a second because I'm very well versed in that subject. So, did you ever go home after that conversation and be like, "Oh my gosh, maybe I am a narcissist," and start like researching it or any of that, or were you just automatically like, "There ain't no fucking way"?
I said no fucking way. And what I did was I texted a few people, called a few people, and I'm like, listen, this is how the conversation went. And this is what she called me. Based off the conversation, do you get those vibes? And most of the people says, yeah, I get those vibes. I'm like, no fucking way. I don't believe that about myself. So I was just like, no.
So fun fact for you.
Mm-hmm.
People that are not narcissists usually ask themselves, "Oh my gosh, am I a narcissist?" But people
Right.
that actually are narcissists will say, "No fucking way, I'm not a narcissist." Just a little tidbit of information.
You said people that's not a narcissist
Yeah, people that
say
aren't
what?
narcissists question whether or not they are a narcissist, and they try to self-reflect and and deep dive into it to see if they are the problem, if they are the narcissist. But a narcissist is incapable of thinking that they might actually be a narcissist. So their automatic reaction, their knee-jerk reaction is, "No fucking way, I'm not a narcissist. This lady's crazy."
Mm. Crazy. So the conversation came up. So I don't even know how she got to the narcissist thing, but it was about you know, arguments. And I was like, listen, at this stage of my life, I don't argue, right? When I feel myself getting there, am I perfect? No. Do I get mad? Sometimes, yeah. But I'd rather walk away from an argument than to sit there and be in your presence and go back and forth and argue. So she said that's called fleeing, right?
It
And
is.
she's like, and she said people that flee are narcissists and people that flee are control freaks. So I was like, how are you gonna call me a control freak? She's like, because people that flee, they not getting what they want out of the conversation. It's not going their way. So what they do is there's in their mind, they're controlling the situation by
By
fleeing. So
leaving.
therefore,
Correct. That's
so
true.
so okay. So if I said there and say to somebody, if this is what we doing, I'm out of here. You would you call me a control freak by sitting there and say I'm gonna you say
Yeah,
yes?
you're trying to control the conversation. You're ending the
Oh man.
conversation when you want to end the conversation. It's
That's
just by
crazy. So,
definition, whether or not I agree with it or not. Fleeing is a thing. It's
so
like denying that NPD exists. It does exist, and I'll tell you what. I could probably figure out real quick whether or not you are a narcissist. Um, First of all, they're narcissists have a script book. They all
okay.
say the same stuff to a T. Okay, so let me ask you this.
I gotta hear this.
I'm being serious. So let's say that say your chick goes to the grocery store or she's doing something and you send her a text message and she doesn't answer the text message in the amount of time that you feel like she needs to answer your text message and you start wondering like, what the hell is she doing? Do you send her question marks because she didn't answer yet? Oh shit, you do. Oh
No, time
no.
out, time out. Time out. Hold on, time out.
Oh no.
Wait. How about okay,
Oh,
okay.
let's do another one. We can do another one. We can do another one. We can do
It's
another
not
one.
like it's a okay, but it's not like it's if it's not in a timely manner though. I have I done it?
Then
Sure.
why
Like
do you own her time? Why does she have to respond to you in the amount of time that you feel like is okay for her to respond to you?
okay, but we can say the same thing about our children. We do the same thing to our children.
I don't do that to my kids. A narcissist does that to their children, but I don't do that to my kids. I got
This is
Vice
crazy.
360. I know where my kids are.
Okay, you say we can try another one. Try
Yeah, we can
another one.
try
This is
another one.
crazy.
All right, let's go. Okay, so um your exes, how many of them are there that you have children with?
Um, I have two baby moms. Yes.
Two baby mamas. Okay, are they both crazy?
Um. Yes. But
How did
women
I know
women
you were
women are
gonna say
naturally crazy.
that? Oh my
You
gosh, no way.
are you reading me right now?
What? I had a good guess that they were both crazy bitches. Oh,
Well, women are just naturally crazy.
you know,
You know what I'm saying? Right? That's the truth. Like we say women
careful,
deal
careful,
with like
careful.
feelings. Um, they're naturally like built on emotions and feelings and stuff. So when you hang your hat on those emotions and those feelings, and you're just gonna naturally be crazy. Like you're a ticking time bomb. I feel like,
So let me ask
but
you, like, would you say that have you ever said to either one of them like you got mental problems? Have you ever said anything like that to either one of them?
yes.
Okay. How about I'm pulling these from the script book, just so you know. Um, we
Understand?
got the question marks, we got the crazy, we got yo. This is not looking too good right
No,
now. I'm
no,
trying to
I'm
I'm trying to help
looking
you
for it
out.
though. I'm looking for it though. I'm definitely gonna counter it because, okay, number one, we talk. We was talking about mental health and we was talking about like the traumas and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
a lot of times that people have traumas, a lot of people, what's the first thing they go through when things don't go their way?
Well, okay, so narcissistic wounds are usually mom wounds. Hold on, I got babies trying to come in here. Lenny, you gotta watch them better. Don't let them come in here. Lock that door. So narcissistic wounds are typically coming from a place from mommy wounds. So they could also be from, where you had a dad that decided to take off on you and mommy decided to spoil you rotten because she felt bad that you didn't have a dad in your life. So she kind of like overdid it and pushed your ego way too hard. And so you got babied basically. Are you a titty baby? Are you a big mommy's boy?
Um,
Oh no.
and-
Oh God.
no,
Is
no,
that
no, no, no,
umbilical
no, no.
cord still
No,
attached?
no, 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 no. I'm not going to say that. But if you saying, was I a mama's boy as opposed to a daddy's boy, then yes.
Mhm.
But I wasn't attached to nothing like that. It wasn't. I wasn't like mommy. Hell no. I was never like that.
I mean, as a grown ass man, right? Is your mom
Yeah. Oh, you
still
talking about
around?
now? Yes.
Your mom's around now? Okay, so when you were in those relationships with those women, did you ever have arguments with those women about your mom? Hmm. And did it go
Well,
something like they were being disrespectful to your mom, so your mom said? Like your mom's like,
no,
she's disrespecting me. Was it anything like that?
no.
Well, what was it about?
Well, it's also like so. I mean, in the relationships, it's like I like so. Me and my mom, like I love my mom. Definitely, just don't get along, and it's like I said, she had her own childhood traumas. I just learned about some stuff I never knew about like a week ago from her growing up. So it's just like it's that disconnect. Like my mom, she got pregnant at 15, 16, 22, 25, 26. So
My
in her
girl.
60s,
My girl.
in her 60s, she still try to conduct herself as a teenager, and it's
Do you
rough,
know
and
why?
it took a long, huh?
Do you know why?
Because she never got to live in it like our child, and then the childhood traumas.
Well,
She
so usually, lots of times when you have something severely traumatic happen to you at a young age, you are stuck there mentally for the rest of
she's
your
stuck,
life.
yeah,
She's stuck.
right, and I
Right.
agree with that. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
definitely stuck in, um, and it's crazy. It took a long time for me to come to terms with that. I used to be like, "What is happening?" But like I said, going through therapy and stuff, and then I applied what my therapist said to me. Then I started learning things about my mom, and I'm like, all right, that's why she do it. I don't like them things. I know why she do it. But I don't like them. I'm like, you gotta grow out of that because I know a lot of my. Say, no, I want to say grow out of it because I still suffer from childhood traumas, but I think I'm definitely in a better space now than I was years ago.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I try to be more productive. I try to have a level head, and I just do things differently. I try different methods and coping mechanisms to get me through things. Whereas my mom, on the other hand, she just crawl up in the ball and just the world's out to get her, and she's always been like that. You know what I'm saying? She won't go to no banks. You know what I'm saying? She don't trust electronics. She said people's tracking her, and I'm like, this is insane, But she went through a lot growing up. She did a lot, and like I said last week, she revealed some things to me I never knew, and I was like, huh, this is crazy. And a lot of things were growing up that I said was crazy that my mom do. I noticed that I've started doing.
Yeah.
But let's get back to this narcissist thing real quick. Um, you know, so one thing about me, in like relationships, when I get in relationships, one thing that my therapist like a month ago drew this out of me, and I started thinking about it. I'm like, huh, that's true. My therapist said it sounds like when you're in a relationship, the one thing you looking for your mate to do is fulfill voids in your life. And I was like, you know what? That's absolutely true because that's the one thing I look for, right? It's like we were talking about earlier. You try to find that sense of purpose. You try to that sense of belonging, right?
Yeah.
And I still look for that. I chase that because I felt like growing up, no matter what accolades, what achievements I had in my life, I wasn't getting acknowledged for it. So yes, when I get in relationships, right, I look for that girl, that woman to fill voids in my life, right? Like, okay, I had these mommy issues. I expect you, or I look for you to solve them or make me feel better about them.
Okay, and hold on a second. So what something you just said was very interesting because you were talking about you had all of these things that you did and you didn't get recognized for those things. And so what you're looking for is recognition, right?
Right.
Based off of achievement, 100% is tied to an ego. And that egocentric, is a key part of narcissistic personality disorder.
I knew you was gonna say that. I did, but so all
Sorry.
right. So no, it's okay. But what I was saying it's I think that like okay, mental illness is a real thing, right? So
Yeah,
so that's when you're dealing with mental illness, it's hard not to focus on certain things like that,
sure,
right?
of course.
Because
Yeah.
everybody look for love in life, right? And then you grow up most of your life and you feel like you're devalued, you dehumanized, right? You demasculated, right? So now you're starting to look for those things. And everybody that's around you, that's in your circle, or they claim they're in your circle, those are the things that you look for in those people. If you're gonna be in my circle, give me what I need. Make me feel wanted, make me feel valued. Right. And that's where I come in. And but my therapist
So
said,
question. So when somebody
yes.
can no longer serve you in those ways, do you discard them? They're no
No, and
longer
this okay.
useful to you. Do you still have a relationship with them?
Yes, and I'm gonna tell you why. And this is another thing. My therapist is like, "Oh no," and she came with all this other. I'm gonna say outlandish things, but you might not agree. I I don't know why, but I always felt like I could fix everything and fix everybody around me. So
Yes.
if people that was broken, I was like, you know what, I can fix them, right?
Challenge
And
for
my
you.
it became a challenge. And then again, my therapist equated that to being narcissistic and controlling. I'm like, but I'm not trying to control you. If I'm trying to help somebody, how's that control?
Okay, but hold on a second because I can flip that one around on your therapist. So, do I believe that people get with other people who are broken because they believe that they can fix them? No, I don't. I believe that people get with other people who are broken because we have similar wounds that attract each other. And I also think that it's because we don't have enough self worth or value in ourselves to be able to think outside the box of, if I can make this person love me, even though they're a known cheater, even
Right.
though they're a known abuser, if I can make this person love me and I can show the world that they love me, that somehow boosts my self worth and my value as a human being because I took this difficult person and made them love me publicly.
Hmm. That's a feat in itself, you know. That's a feat. So I have two therapists actually. So I have a male, but he's a little bit more expensive. And when I walk away from him, I feel like I achieved something. I feel like I'm on a
So why does the money matter? Why are you going to the girl telling you a narcissist if you like the guy better? Or do you like the guy better because he's feeding your ego?
yeah. And no, it just because I feel like I'm getting something out of it, right? Like when I talk to her, it's different. Like our very first session, she was bashing men, and I'm like, "How you a therapist? And
I
I'm a
need, who
man,
is
and you
this
bashing
woman?
men.
I need her contact information.
Well, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because
I'm just super, I'm very interested in like who she is and how she approaches life because like
right,
first of all, I would never consider myself to be a feminist or anywhere near that. So I am not like in the man hater club nonsense. Like I don't play that. Whereas yeah, I do think women deserve, rights to not be beat on. I still think that the first woman that was like fighting to have a real job and have to go to work every day is an idiot. Because I would much rather just like sit at home and eat bonbons and not have to work. So there's that. But like that would take men actually stepping up to the plate and not abandoning their families and growing some cojones and working and being able to provide for women. And that's kind of like a lost art these days. So
it's
it's
true.
kind of like you can't. have both, unfortunately. So I understand why homegirl decided that she wanted to give us rights to go to work so that her children didn't starve. But I wish that she would have like gotten those men punished for being pieces of shit instead. You know what I'm saying?
But the crazy thing is the times have changed because back then when they wanted the women rights, okay, now even as a man, I can understand why women were saying I want the women rights. But now look at women today, right? I'm not saying there's no successful women, but women complain all the time. Even the ones that say I'm a strong, independent woman, they still complain about working. But they the same ones that talk about we need women's rights. And that's what women stood up for years ago.
Yeah.
Now you got all the rights and you're complaining.
I
It's
mean,
like pick your
if
poison.
they like, you got to understand though, it's kind of like regret with anything. It was kind of like, wow, that was kind of dumb. Right? Like you make
Right.
decisions like I got pregnant by another dude and I was like, wow, that was kind of dumb. It's kind of the same idea. Like it seems like a really good idea at the time. And then
Right, right,
afterwards you're
right.
like, what the hell was I thinking?
Right.
Right.
Now, no, I want to say this real quick. As far as the narcissist, one thing they have is a lack of empathy. I don't have a lack of empathy, right? I empathize with a lot, and so you know what I'm saying. And I just feel like I don't check off all those boxes, so I don't fit in that mold. I don't think.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Have you ever been arrested for criminal domestic violence?
No.
Have you ever put your hands on a woman?
At some point in my life, I have.
Would you feel uncomfortable giving me your baby mama's contact information?
Fuck no.
You wouldn't feel
Why would I do
uncomfortable, or
that?
you would feel
Oh,
uncomfortable.
no, uncomfortable.
Do you feel uncomfortable? Why?
Just why would I do that?
Well, what are you worried about? Are you worried about them exposing you? Like, what do you think that they could possibly say to me that would change my opinion of you?
I mean, I don't see. First of all, I don't know. It's just weird. It's weird because it's
Why?
not. It's first of all, you said my word about being exposed, right?
Yeah, because that's a narcissist's number one fear is being exposed for who they really are. And those women that you were in a relationship with, they know you. They know you. So if they
I get
were
that.
to tell me things about you that you don't want other people to know, and that like
Right,
infuriates you because you can't control the narrative and you can't control how somebody sees and perceives you, that's very narcissistic.
right.
Like for
Oh,
me, I'll be honest with you. I put all my business out there all the time. I will tell
yeah.
you anything and everything that you want to know about me. I do not care. Um, I get along really well with my second and third husband, or not my second and third. Sorry, first and second. Third husband, I don't talk to. That guy's a jackass. But my first and second husband, like my first husband, our daughter graduated from high school last year, and he stayed here actually in this room in my house. Like I let him stay here for the week while he was here for our daughter's graduation.
You're
No
just
problem.
different.
My
You're
second
just different.
husband, my second husband, who is now married to my ex best friend, and they have two kids together. Anyways, um, that guy, whenever I was fighting my third husband in court for custody of his two kids, I stayed with them at their house. So like I can get along with my exes, no problem. You can talk to any of my exes. I will introduce my husband to my exes, no problem. I don't care because I don't have anything to hide, and we can get
Right.
along. We get along fine, like no
But you know
problem.
what? It's not even for me. It's not even about exposure. It's just I can't put my finger on it. Just for instance, I wouldn't even want my two baby moms talking. Like
Oh, see, I
it's
don't
just
have a problem with that at all. I don't have a problem with that. No
so I
problem.
can't explain it. It's certain things are just super weird to me. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't want it. I just wouldn't.
So last year, I flew my ex-husband down here to surprise our son at his basketball game because he's never been able to watch him play basketball because my son always goes to him in South Carolina and he plays basketball here where he lives, right?
Right.
So his wife and I got on the phone. We talk all the time. I booked the plane ticket. She booked the hotel and the rental car. No, they didn't get a rental car. My daughter picked him up. And he flew down here from South Carolina and surprised my son at his basketball game. And my husband was there. My family was there. Like everybody was there. And I don't care. Like whenever we went to court, me and my husband, my now husband, went to court against my last husband. And we were out in South Carolina for court, right? My other ex-husband, the one that I was staying with, watched my children from my now husband while we went to
What the
court.
fuck? See, it's just weird. Like that's what I'm saying.
Not
So for me,
weird.
it's not about exposure. It's just you know what I'm saying. Like I don't even like my mom talking to the first baby mom.
Why?
I feel like I feel like I don't have no association. Why are you still associated? You know what I'm saying? It's just principle for me. It's just like
But is
it's
she a
weird.
mom of one of your kids?
She is, but
Then
she don't.
you better get the hell over it. That's her grandchild's mama.
But again, I don't have no she don't have no communication with our son. You know what I'm
Why?
saying? And you want me to air her business out there? She
I
just she
mean,
just she just how can I put this nicely? She was still trying to live the fast life. She wasn't motherly, you know? She had another son prior that she just was so freely just gave him up because not through adoption, but just dropped him off to his aunt house in another state and just was like, okay, cool. Now I get to live the fast life.
she's broken.
Uh, and
What
she
they
was
do.
around. You said she's broken.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's that girl power. Like
She's
that's what I was
broken.
saying.
Like
Like I
you cannot tell me that somebody that would willingly give up their child is not broken. You can't. Like she had no that motherly instinct did not kick in because she herself has some sort of an attachment disorder. She did not have a problem handing her children over to somebody else. She's broken. She's hurting.
was okay. I'm not going to like dispute the fact that she may or may have not been broken. But what I'm saying is she kept saying, "Oh, it's only temporary." But the lifestyle she wanted to live,
Um,
it just became a neglect thing, right? And it's
of
just like
course.
she was okay with seeing them like once a year, and even I was like, "How are you okay with that?" She's like, "Oh, I love him. He know I love him, and I'll go see him." And then like she always promised the weekend she was gonna go see him. She just never did.
That's
And then
sad.
then she wound up like cheating on me with a whole bunch with this dude. I found out towards the back end of the relationship that it's
Did
been
you
going
cheat
on
on her
for
first? Did you cheat on her?
no. I wish I did. I'll be honest.
Yes, you did.
Because huh? What
Have
you
you ever
what?
cheated on anybody?
I have.
Is it like a
I have.
regular repeated thing in your relationships, or is it just like a one-time thing? Or
Well, I'm put it like this. So when I was
oh,
younger,
that face
when I
you're
was
making though.
when I was younger, it's okay. It was okay. I didn't take relationships serious, right? When I got older and I had in my mind that like I want to make it work, then yeah, it was different. And like with her, like I said, I want to say this real quick. Give you a quick story. With her, we was like best friends. It's like her personality I fell in love with, right? And I never wanted to lose her because of her personality. For instance, she never let a woman disrespect me. And she used to smack other women or beat another woman up. These are the qualities and things that I was attracted to. I'm like, I love that. And it got to a point in time she was kept asking me for a relationship. And I'm like, no, we good as friends. I even told her I'm not confident that I would be faithful if we got in a relationship. And she just kept asking, And then one day I just gave in. I said, I'm willing to see where it goes. And even then, I was every time I looked at her, I'm like, dang, I don't see her as like a girlfriend, right? Make a long story short, she wound up getting pregnant. So in my mind, I said, you know what? I got to take this serious now. We got a kid together. I'm not going to cheat. And then the moment I found out she was cheating, and it was going on for damn near a year, I was like, I'm an idiot. I didn't even see her as a relationship quality or wifey material. And I didn't think I could be faithful to her. And I was mad at myself for a long time. Like, why didn't I cheat then? Just to find out that she cheated on me. She wasn't my ideal chick. So yeah, I didn't cheat on her, you know. And like I said, even now I make jokes about it. I'm like, if I can do it all over again, I would have been cheating the whole time.
So,
You know, and I got
question:
women. Go ahead.
did you accuse her of cheating on you when she wasn't cheating on you?
No,
Do you typically think a woman's cheating on you?
no,
You don't. So, like, you're not sitting here thinking, like, no matter what, if she's taking longer at the store than she probably should have been, that she's probably talking to some dude.
no,
Do you go through your female's phones?
no.
Never. Like, you never like think about going and grabbing their phones and going through it. How many times has a girl gone through your phone because they're
All the
suspicious of you?
all the fucking time. All the you trying to spin this back to me? This is crazy. But
No,
all the time.
I'm asking questions because, like, let me tell you what. So
Oh shit! What the fuck?
my first three husbands, I went through
Oh
their
my
phones
god!
because I was suspicious, right? And they were all cheaters. My husband now, I've never one time gone through his phone. There's no reason to.
Right.
No reason to.
Listen, hold on.
I have
First of all,
zero doubts.
I want to know what that don't lie goes to, because yeah. Speaking about which, you was talking about kid's mother. That's one on right there. So that don't lie. I want to know what that don't lie is because I don't go through phones. So if she talk about that, she crazy. I don't go through phones, right? I just I don't feel the need to. You know what I'm saying? Um, now the first baby mom, I did I go through her phone eventually? Yeah, but this is when the back end of the relationship. And the only reason why I went through it is because she tried to keep it a secret this whole time, and I still wasn't going through her phone. The only reason why I started going through her phone is because I hate to say it, but guys just think differently, right? So the guy she was dealing with, he didn't care. He started posting videos and stuff on Facebook and social media. So that's how I knew for a fact. And when I asked her about it, she always denied it. So then that's when I started going through her phone. And then I started sending screenshots from her phone to my phone, deleting her phone. And then I kept asking. So then one day I said, listen, you want to tell me what this is about? And then she got mad. It's like, oh, that's invasion of privacy. I'm like, huh? How's that invasion of privacy? You've been lying this whole time. All you had to do was be honest with me. I say, I went back to saying, telling her, from the beginning, I didn't want to be with you. So if you was going to do all this, what was the point of sobbing and crying and begging me all the damn time?
Well, do you see at least now that you kind of asked for that? You kind of set yourself up for failure?
By
Think
taking her
about it.
on,
Think no, no,
doing
no,
that.
no, no. Think about it. You were willing to get with a girl who was okay being with you telling her, I don't think that I can be faithful to you. You were
Oh,
totally down with being with a woman that was okay with a cheater.
so wait, say it again. I'm not. Make sure I heard that correctly.
Okay. So you were okay with getting with a woman who was broken, right? This woman, you told her flat out, I don't know that I can be faithful to you if we get together. I don't know that I really want you. What you were doing was you were breadcrumbing her, is what they call that, giving her breadcrumbs of rejection, and that's why she threw herself at you and wanted you even more, is because she had abandonment and rejection issues.
Oh my God, this is crazy. I'm gonna dig my own hole. I'm about to jump in there tonight. This is crazy. You still there? You look froze, Christina. You there? So crazy. I don't know how we got to this topic, but it's definitely juicy. Christina, see if I can get her back real quick. Uh-oh. Yeah. See if she can give her a couple minutes, see if she jumped back. If not, it was I was about to conclude anyways, but this is crazy. We talk about abortions and we talking about infidelity, we talking about it's wild. But definitely want to have her back. She's definitely a good one to have. And I guess we'll have like a part two, maybe part three to talk about the other topics. Um, but yeah. What's up, Prime Grade? And everybody else that's viewing. I guess I lost her. Let's snare another text. Narcissist and a control freak. That is insane. I think anything in life where you can break down and manipulate it in a negative or positive way, because I can counter everything that she was saying. Oh, here she comes. I'm trying to, anyways. It's a connection issue. There she goes. There you
Sorry, we're
go.
having a bad storm here and I lost you. Um,
Yeah.
all right. So what I was saying was is that you were okay with being in a relationship with somebody that was okay with the terms being that you had told her from the jump, I don't know that I can be faithful to you. I don't know that I can be in a relationship with you. I don't know that I want you like that. So you were breadcrumbing her with rejection. And she threw herself back at you as a result of that because she liked that little taste of rejection that you gave her. So she was like, nah, I'm going to prove that you're going to love me, fool. And so you were okay with being in a relationship with a broken woman from the jump.
Yeah.
You set yourself
Um.
up for failure.
n- Okay. Now that you break it down like that, okay, I can understand where you're getting at. But the whole breadcrumbing her, I don't agree with that either.
You
Because
wouldn't have
for
realized
me,
that you were doing it. You wouldn't have realized that you were doing it. So like people with rejection and abandonment issues, we find
yeah,
other people with rejection and abandonment issues. And the reason
right,
that we get in relationships with these people is because we are not usually in a place where we can handle a healthy relationship until we heal those wounds. So we
right,
touch on other people's rejection and we touch on other people's abandonment to see if they will leave us. And there's something called borderline personality disorder, and this is very important to research and look up because there's a lot of those out there too, and a lot of adoptees have BPD. But the key deciding factor in BPD, which why a lot of adoptees have it, is because it's I hate you, don't leave me. I hate you, don't leave me. I hate you, don't leave me. It's a push and pull, cat and mouse. And so people
mm,
with rejection and abandonment issues, we'll push you just a little bit away to see if you come running back because that's how we determine whether or not we are worthy of your love and vice versa. So whether or not you were purposely breadcrumbing her, you telling her, I don't think that I can be be faithful to you. That to her was a challenge. And now she's like, motherfucker, you're going to be faithful to my ass. Watch this. I'm going to make you love this platinum so much that you ain't going nowhere. That's what happened.
right. I mean, maybe, but okay, but I have abandonment issues myself.
That's what I'm saying. And so you attracted another person with abandonment and rejection issues because you guys both had unhealed wounds.
Mm. Okay, but okay. So you think somebody with abandonment issues can coexist with somebody without um abandonment issues, like
If they are
relationship wise?
healed, if they are healed, yes. If they are
So if they
aware,
heal, so they're
yes.
okay. So if they heal, then I wouldn't say they still suffer from abandonment issues.
You
So
always
I
suffer
think
with them. You always have them no
okay,
matter what. You will never get rid
okay,
of them. You just become aware of them. You know how they manifest. You know how they present themselves in relationships. You know the problems that they cause, and you are in a constant battle for the rest of your life, not succumbing to the issues that are caused by those wounds. So, like for
right, right.
me, like let me give you an example. My mom's sister and two sister-in-laws went to the beach and did not invite me last month. Okay.
Mm,
So to any random person that would hurt, but I'm an adoptee and that was my birth mother. So that hurt like 10 times worse because I'm like, what was so wrong with me where I couldn't go? And I was in my head for like the whole fucking weekend upset because I'm like, why would they not want to spend time with me? Why didn't they invite me? But logically, I know they didn't invite me because they went to the beach and I hate the beach. So, you know, like if I would have stepped back and logically looked at it like I was a man who logically thinks, I could say, I know they didn't invite me because of this. But the emotional woman side of me says, I wish they would have invited me, even though I would have said no. But then at the same time, I'm not taking into consideration maybe they didn't want the rejection of me telling them, no, I don't want to go because I hate the beach. So, like, there's so many
mm,
different ways to look at that. But I was unable prior to this to look at that situation outside of my own wants, needs, and desires of abandonment wounds because that pain causes me to be like, no, fuck you. Why would you not invite me? What, you know, like I took it personally. I got upset over it and I was mad and I'm going to fight that with fire. I'm going to try to hurt you back because you hurt me. I don't do that
mm,
anymore because I know that that was just my abandonment and rejection wounds talking. That wasn't
mm,
the logical explanation for why that went down the way that it went down. And if I didn't have that perspective, and if I didn't know that those are abandonment wounds talking in my head, if I didn't know that that's what how they manifest, if I didn't know that, and if I didn't know that the reason I was going after the men I was going after was because they were known cheaters and they were known wife beaters, and I was going to try to prove that they would love me in order to prove my self worth. That was abandonment and rejection wounds. Without knowing that that's why I did what I did, it was easy for me to fall into the same trap again. But once you
mm,
know it, yeah, that still hurt. And yeah, it still is amplified because I'm an adoptee. But at least now I can look at it and be like, hey, hold on though. Like, I can look at this objectively and think, maybe they didn't want to be told no. Maybe they didn't They didn't invite me because they know I hate the beach, and I would have said no regardless because I don't want to go because it's the beach. And maybe they were just like, well, I'm not going to ask her because, whatever. Same thing with like my birthday, right? Yesterday was my birthday, whatever. I didn't get anything from anybody. And the reason that, like, in my head, I'm like, Matt, my feelings are hurt because I didn't get anything. Like, wow, I was just forgotten. Nobody wanted to get me anything. Those are my abandonment wounds talking. In all
Mm.
reality, the reason I didn't get anything is because everybody knows I hate my birthday and they tread really lightly around it. And they don't want to amplify that it's my birthday.
Right.
Right. So it's like, I have to know and understand this is what causes me to think this way. And if I don't recognize that, I could have just gotten pissed off and cussed everybody out because they didn't get me anything. When in all reality, they were actually just trying to respect my boundary of I hate my birthday. Don't talk about it. It didn't exist.
Right. I got you. Well, it's a lot of things. Now you're gonna have me probably spending the rest of the night, not the rest of the night, but at least a portion of it, doing some self reflecting
That's
and
good.
some deep compression. I mean, I do it anyways, but now you got my wheels turning because you took me down a little rabbit hole a little bit, and now you got me thinking like, even though I still don't believe that I'm a narcissist, I will do some self
I've
reflecting.
never met a narcissist that believes that they're a narcissist. I'll just say that.
I'm just saying, I just because I don't know. I gotta give that some thought, and I gotta see if the dots connect when it comes to me. That's all. The last thing I'm gonna say about that is this. Another thing my therapist said, because I have OCD. She said OCD is, oh God, you shaking your head, so you already okay. So
I
people with
already knew
OCD,
that. She kept on calling you a control freak. And I'm like looking in the background of your little video here. And I'm going, oh man, he makes sure that he folds his toilet paper before he wipes his ass. And his car is definitely clean all the time. There's a certain way to put the dishes in the dishwasher. And if you do it the wrong way, you are in trouble. Boy.
this is terrible. This is my kid's mom. She said, "Oh, she loved this because that is me to the T." I can't help it though, And for most of my life, I blame my mom because my mom. Well, I can't even say that. I can't even say I got it from my mom, even though I always say that's where it came from. My mom has these tendencies where you would think that she has OCD, but she definitely don't. I thought you froze again. But my mom is she's a hoarder, so it's hard to. She can't be
It's the same
OCD and be a
thing.
hoarder at the same time.
It's the same thing. So it's literally just control. And so
Yeah.
like, okay, so where does the desire to control come from? It comes from lack of control. So there was some portion of your life where you felt out of control and the only thing that you could control was what was right in front of you. So you're like, okay, plus on top of that, you're probably a math and science brain, you're probably very left-brained, right? So naturally, you're a facts, figures, and statistics guy, which is why you're arguing with a diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder because you're like, I'm going to need to see the charts. I'm gonna need to see the scientific proof here. Someone's gonna need to show me something. Okay, like that's where your brain goes,
I
right?
set myself up because I forgot you say you study psychology. Set
Oops,
myself up. I forgot.
sorry. This one's free of charge. It's okay. So look. Being OCD, that's just being obsessive. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to be obsessive about being clean or obsessive about being a hoarder and controlling your environment. It's still control. There are
Mhm.
people that have, like, I have a daughter that has OCD. So she has to rub her feet together 3 times before she goes to bed every night or she can't fall asleep.
Right.
She has
Now
to
it's
pee
different levels.
twice. She has to go pee twice before she can fall asleep. If she doesn't pee twice, she will not sleep. Like it's a thing and it's a control
Yeah.
thing. And it's
Right.
because of lack of control in childhood because I had a very mean, very controlling husband who controlled every single thing that my kids did. And so she had no control at that point in her life and that was when her personality was developing. So here she is trying to control other things now in her life. She's also an extremely good student. She's 95s and above on every single report card for her entire school career. She's number 5 in her
Mhm.
class. Like, she's very, very smart kid because she's OCD and she makes sure she dots all of her I's and crosses all of her T's. So that can like manifest in different ways. With your mom, it's control over not throwing things away. For you,
Mhm.
it's control over how to load the damn dishwasher.
I think it made me mentally stronger. I think.
Well, but when I tell you to go write me a creative essay, are you still mentally stronger or am I going to kick your ass?
My favorite subject in school was English and creative writing, so I take that challenge.
Okay, well, we can go there. You can fabricate stories.
Who, me? Can I?
Yeah.
I can fabricate stories. I'm a good storyteller.
Are you?
You know, absolutely.
So if you are OCD without the other side of the math and science brain, were you good at math and science?
I'm gonna say no. That was not my strong suit.
English was your strong suit.
Yes,
Would you call yourself right-brained or left-brained?
I don't know the difference. To be honest with you,
Have you ever been diagnosed as bipolar?
no,
Never?
no.
Interesting. So typically those people that are on that OCD are typically your math and science brains and they're your facts, figures, statistics. Those are your dishwasher needs to be done the right way people. Those are your, routines, lists, like not going to the grocery store without a list, or they do an online order so that they make sure that they get everything type of people. They get upset when something is not put back the way it should be. People are late. That bothers them. People need to be on time because it's disrespectful when you're late. Like that kind of stuff is
That's left.
typically
That's left or right.
that's left.
Okay.
Okay.
So 90% of what you just said is me. 90%.
Okay. So then your right brain person, which is me, um, our houses are usually a complete and total disaster. If you open our car door, you are gonna have some kind of wrapper or bottle fall out,
Oh no.
guaranteed. Oh
Oh no.
yeah.
I can't. I
No,
can't.
that's every
Now
time.
it's different degrees and different levels of everything in life. But
Of course.
for me, like I don't have to do the rubbing the hand. Well, okay,
Right.
I don't do that. I don't wait. Let me take that back. Let me scale it back because that's not fair for me to do because I don't do that. But I do something very similar. Like when I vacuum, and I have to do even strokes, and I
There
move it
you
over, and
go.
I just have to do it. And if I don't, it bothers me. Like
Yep.
and one thing I won't do is clean up if somebody's here because people always watch me. They always say, "What the fuck? Why are you doing that stupid ass shit?" Or they got something to say. So I wait until nobody's around and then I do my thing. But when I tell you what, when it's done, people come over and like, "What the fuck? Oh, your girl do a good job." I'm like, that was me. I'm like, yeah, all right, because I dust and everything. People was like, men don't dust. I'm like, oh, I dust. It needs to be dusted.
Ask me really quick. Ask me how many times I've dusted in my life.
Probably none.
Not one. Never.
See,
Not one
I
time.
see.
Never.
See, and that's wild. So
Like that
until you,
thought doesn't even cross my head. Like I don't own a duster. Like I would never think like, oh, I should probably dust that. No,
yeah,
never. Never. One time. Never.
man, things that bother me is, for instance, I've had like on a TV stand or something. If I had the picture frame like this way, and then I had to have an identical picture frame on the other side, and I try my best to have it angled the same way.
Mhm.
And if somebody touch it, I freak the fuck out
Okay,
because
listen.
I
I
try not to
love
do it
fucking with
openly.
people like you. I love fucking with people like you because
That's
when I
fucked up.
notice, like, I will do it. When I notice shit like that and I go to somebody's house, right before I leave, I will tweak a picture frame just enough to where it's going to bug the shit out of you after I leave.
Now it is people that fuck me like that.
Or
And
I
I'm
will
like,
flip
motherfucker.
the toilet paper around while I'm in the bathroom.
Now you know what's crazy, and I hope people don't fuck with me after they listen to this, but it got to the point, I'll be dying for company. I'll be wanting company, but not at my house because I don't want nothing to move.
Woohoo!
Right?
Yeah, control. All control.
I mean, because like, hey, it's certain things. Like if it's something that like a pen or something like that that everybody's gonna need to touch or want to touch, cool. I'm like, why are you touching a picture? Like you don't know nobody in that picture. Why you want to touch it? They be like, oh, this family, and then that's it. They don't ask me who is it. They be, oh, this family, and just touch it. And I'll be like, Now I don't freak out to that extreme, but mentally I'll be freaking out. I'll be like, damn,
Of
as soon as they leave,
course.
I gotta fix that. Yeah, I'm like, I
So
gotta fix that.
there's another part to that though, because sometimes that's just inherent. That's just like something that you're born with because that's your personality type. And then you like take it to a whole new level because of a lack of control in a situation. A lot of times, and I'm not saying this is yours, and I wouldn't expect you to share this if you didn't want to, but I'm just saying a lot of times that need for control comes from a place where you've been put in a very vulnerable position. Like if you were molested as a child, for example, that can manifest into that level of control as an adult because it's giving you the ability to control something when you felt at that one very vulnerable moment in your life like you had none. Does that make sense?
Mm. Yes, and I agree with that. But just for disclosure, none of that shit ever happened to me. Um, but for years now, and I think now I'm getting a little closer to being serious with it. I always wanted to write a little autobiography because I always wanted to know the root cause of my traumas and what makes me tick or why my
Sure.
brain process the way it process. So I think I'm getting closer to actually starting that book. But yeah, I always wanted to know um why I think the way I think, why I do this, why, you know what I'm saying? I say, just like you say about the need to control something. If that's what I'm doing here, I need to know for my own personal gain, why that is and where it started.
Sure.
You know?
I think it's important, and I think that you would benefit a lot from doing some research on OCD and like what the roots of it are and figuring out what the root of yours is, because you might be able to heal some of that in yourself. It might be very healing for you to be able to let go of some of that control.
Mm,
Sounds really terrifying, right? But so is a
right,
roller coaster. But once you get going, it's really fun. So
right,
you might have a new sense of control by being able to understand what's actually controlling you, because there's
right.
some trauma in your past that is causing you to be controlling. So what is controlling you? Because you are not controlling any of these situations. There is some trauma in your life that is controlling you and making you behave that way.
Interesting. You know, it's crazy because next week I speak to a therapist. She went on vacation for a month. She's like, you could feel free to talk to another therapist. And I was like, nah, I'll wait. I ain't got to pay. I'll wait. I'll wait till you come back. So next week, she'll be back, and I'm gonna tell her. I'm like, I talked to somebody that's has a bachelor's that studied the psychology, and she agreed with you, like certain things. I'm just gonna see what she says. She probably gonna love life,
Tell her, look me up
but
on TikTok. Give her my
but
TikTok.
I before I get up out of here though, like it's but when I think about when I do self reflection, I'm like, am I controlling? And I think about how I think, and I really it's hard for me to wrap my mind over that I'm controlling because I'm
Okay,
not
well,
trying
hold
to.
on though.
I,
Hold on
I
though.
I don't try to control people.
Sure. Would you have you ever been called controlling by a girlfriend? See, here's the
Not that I can
problem.
recall.
Here's
Not
here's
no
the
no not that I can. I've been called a lot of things. I don't think I was called controlling.
Have they ever called you a narcissist?
No,
Never been called that before?
no.
All right, so listen. So one thing that I've noticed that you do over and over again is every time that you're talking about this subject, you are circling it right back to yourself. Okay. So
Oh
like
my God.
I studied psychology because I wanted to know what was wrong with me, but I also wanted to understand why people do the things that they do. Not so
And
I
that's
can know why I do what I do. That was important, but I want to understand other people and I want to be able to serve other people and help
so
other people.
sociology.
But
Yeah,
you
that's the two
want to
things I wanted: psychology and sociology. I'm still big
yeah,
on
they're
that, but
interesting. They're very
yes.
interesting. But you got to look at your motivation for doing these things, your motivation for writing your autobiography, which is all about you. Why is your reason for wanting to write it all about you and tell everybody all about you? That's number one. Number two, that's number two. Why do you want to learn psychology? It's because you want to understand you. You said that too.
Oh,
Um,
me and other people, yeah.
yeah,
Same thing with
you said
sociology.
that's not what you said. You said you. It's okay. It's
No,
okay.
I
I'm not
did, but
judging. It's
it's
okay.
mainly about me. But
Right.
it's overall like the ability to understand people and everybody around me is intriguing to me. And it was like that since a young age. I think when I was in middle school and I had this passion and for this thirst for knowledge as far as psychology and sociology. And I think a lot of it came from everybody always wanted to shrink me. Right? Everybody wanted to be a therapist to me, and everybody felt like they had all the right answers. And I'm like, you don't have the answers because you don't know the life that I live. You don't know what's going on in my head and things like that. And then like everybody tried to shrink me. So I was like, you know what? Instead of people trying to read me all the time, I'm gonna read everybody else. And that's where I wanted the psychology and
So you
sociology.
wanted to get control back. Is that what I just heard?
I mean, if that's what you got out of that, but I
No, no,
just
I'm asking. So like they were able to shrink you, which left you powerless. So therefore
powerless.
you could get the control back by understanding to flip the narrative. Now you are in the driver's seat. Is that what it was?
Okay. Okay, okay. I guess if I'm being honest, I guess.
It's saying, like, be honest about it. Like, this is actually really good that you're like actually open to this conversation, to be honest with you. Because like
Right.
it's gotta be bruising the ego a little bit for sure, right?
It
Go ahead.
is. Like, you won't see me sweating. I've been sweating. When you froze, I was like, I don't know how this turned around to me. Like, this is crazy.
I'm good at doing that. So here's the deal. I think it would be really good and really healthy for you to have a very interesting conversation with yourself and be like, maybe I am a narcissist and maybe I need to learn what a narcissist is and actually be open to the idea that I could have this. And maybe you could be one of the most powerful humans on the planet by learning what a narcissist is and being a self-proclaimed narcissist and helping other people deal with narcissists because narcissists don't think that they're narcissists. Just saying.
I also think don't see. And earlier when I asked you, I said you think narcissists are bad. One is because I've been told that about myself, and I'm far from a bad guy. And second, I said if I'm a narcissist, because I don't believe I'm a bad guy, I was like, if I am indeed a narcissist, then narcissists are not bad.
So hold
That's
on.
why I asked you that question.
So hold on. So okay. So narcissists, this is like such an interesting way to put this, but what you just said, right? If I'm a narcissist can't be bad people because I'm not a bad person. Well,
Right,
you being a good person or a bad person is subjective to your belief of what a good person really is. And a
right.
lot of narcissists don't believe that they're bad people. They really truly believe that they're good people, but in all reality, they do a lot of damage and they hurt a lot of people. So instead of focusing on what you think about yourself, you need to go study what other people think about you because
Ooh.
all these other people that are saying, if they all have the same story and they're all saying the same thing, and if you have continuous relationship issues, and you're constantly fighting, like you don't have a great relationship with your mom, we already know that. You have two previous baby mamas, we already know that. If you have friends that you're fighting with constantly, if you have a hard time keeping people in your life and they're all saying the same shit to you, chances are there might be a little bit of truth in there.
I have high expectations.
So did you just take control back of the reason as to why these people and you fight? Is that what just happened?
What? This is crazy.
Is that what just happened?
Nah, you know what?
So
You got
I
me.
do have those problems, but it's not my fault. Well, it is though, because I have high expectations. So therefore, they do not meet those expectations. So I control the relationship by saying you no longer can be in a relationship with me. Is that what
And you know
happened?
what? I'm gonna make everybody's day. I'm a narcissist. I'm gonna call myself a narcissist. This is
Did
crazy.
y'all hear that? That's a first for me. That's a first for me.
I keep backing myself in a corner. I might as well.
I
Like,
feel
this is
like I just
crazy.
took your virginity. Like I feel like I won something right there.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you know what's crazy? You told the ego. Now you got me feeling like this. Now I'm like, I feel defeated because I was like, oh, like when you. Oh, so here we go. Oh my God. See, girl power again.
No, no, no. It has nothing to do with my gender, but it has everything to do with the fact that the only way that a narcissist will ever admit that they're a narcissist is if they do it in a mocking way, or if they say, "Oh, you're right, I must be a narcissist," or if they make fun of themselves and be like, "Oh, remember, I'm a narcissist." That's usually the only way that they'll do it. Just FYI. You kind of did that, but kind of not at the same time. So, do I believe that you have narcissistic tendencies? You demonstrated that. Yeah. And your therapist said it. So I'm going to say maybe I'm right. But can I diagnose you? No, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I can't diagnose you. Do I think that it would be really, really good for you to learn a lot about narcissism? Absolutely. I think it's good for everybody to learn about narcissism because until you learn about narcissism, you don't know what to watch out for. You don't know how to start. How are you going to stop narcissistic behaviors if you don't know what they are? Tell me that.
Got you. See, it's the thing. I know what a narcissist is, and so when you say like tendencies, like it's certain things I'm like, okay, I fit in that category with X, Y, and Z, but I look at things in the grand scheme of things. Overall, I don't feel like but hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. And
That's
and and
just
and, and now
stop
you got me
yourself.
second guess myself. You got me second guess myself though, because earlier when I said that I always felt like my whole life I felt like I can fix everybody and everything around me. So if you think you can fix everything, that's control. But yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, listen, it's been great, and I look forward to having you on again because, like I said, you're well versed and articulate. But that's going to conclude today's episode. We hope the viewers that have been watching enjoyed it, got something out of it. Continue to support, continue to comment, and all those good things. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And Kristina, I'll definitely stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
All
You
right,
have a good
bye.
night.
You too.